After an eventful race at the Paperclip in Martinsville, the Raven Grafixx Contender Series moves to the biggest track on the circuit. Round number 9, the Let's Roll 300 is going to be taken off shortly here on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. Don't go away. Welcome back to pre-race coverage for round number 9 of your Raven Grafixx Contender Series here on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. As always, I'm Randy Cheneth up in the booth. Joining me is Jake Blackhall, Hugo Louise, working the cameras. And Jake, last week at Martinsville was a pretty eventful race to say the least. I think this is the last track on the circuit anyone could have ever imagined that these guys would have to calm down after a race like that.
Yeah, thank you, Randy, and welcome everyone. Yeah, after last week, those caution-filled race at Martinsville, we come here to the one where everyone's going to have to take it down a notch, which is interesting, like you say. And I think this is the one where the patience is gonna get you to the end. We've seen that happen at Daytona, where Doug Lemons was able to get that victory through the patience of staying out of the trouble. And tonight, that's definitely what people will need to do. The track is really cool, overcast temperatures, so that we'll see some very close racing up front.
Very cool circuit, and coming here this week, week number 9, this puts us past halfway for your regular season. First 17 races are all part of the regular season, and everything after that till the end of the season, the last 7 rounds, that's your KPD chase. So here, you only have about 7 to 8 rounds left in this race, or in this championship, really, Jake, to get yourself locked into that chase to have any contention at all for the championship.
Yeah, this is the race where you need to make sure you minimize your losses and make sure you can get as many points as possible without tearing that track up. You need to make sure that you're not going to be going into these last 6 races after tonight and have no points coming out of Talladega, and heading into those other races like Charlotte next week. You got to make sure that you can get the maximum points and minimize those losses for this week.
We're going to go to your race starting grid here as qualifying is getting finished up. These drivers getting ready to hit the grid. And today, in round number 9, Chris J. Britz comes home with the pole with a 52.447, and that's going to be important for him as he's not having a very good championship at all, currently running in the 19th position. Hopefully with these points he can get himself up near the borderline to get into that chase. Doyle Lawrence rolling off in position number 2. Doug Lemons and Brad Patterson. Second row, Brad Patterson, when you've seen him strong at Daytona, not really strong through the rest of his championship though. Maybe he can get himself some points going into this round as well. Row number 3, Frank Ermuglia and Bobby Stewart. Travis Turnmeyer and Brad Neer. Row number 4 with William Toney and Travis Townsend. Row number 5. Row 6, James Torrey and Perry Snelson. Row 7, Sizlove and Keith. Row number 8, Ryan Campbell and Aaron Ames. Ryan Campbell has had a pretty good stretch the last 3 to 4 races, but here 15th place, not where he'd want to be at all. 17th and 18th, Doc Stout and Sean Miller. Damian Plymesser and Burt Wilson, 19th and 20th. And rounding out your field today, Glenn Jamison and Al Senna, who takes a provisional. And well, Jake, points, very, very important here. We have some people who are up towards the top who are not used to seeing there. We have some people who are used to seeing at the top who are a little bit further down the order as well. I think most notably Travis Townsend put himself 10th place today.
Yeah, that's right. Townsend down in 10th, but there's also the notables of Doug Lemons pushing up that front. And Chris J. Britt, after his move to Glovebox last week, has really stepped up that another notch. It could help him in the championship. You got Doyle Lawrence as well up there. And Brad Patterson, who has struggled through that middle portion of the season, like you said, Randy, and now able to put that truck back up the top. Hopefully you can see a better run than what he's seen today.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As the trucks begin rolling off here at Talladega. And Jake, let's talk about this a little bit. Obviously, the closest comparison you can draw is to Daytona, but let's be honest, this is a completely different beast. It's a little bit bigger. You got a lot more room to work with. Even though Daytona is rather wide, this is wider still. And most notably, the big talking point here at Talladega, where that start-finish line is. It's a very classic incident. It's a very classic talking point here. There's races where you could win if you would have been at Daytona, but here, because that finish line is about a quarter mile further down the track, well, maybe you don't.
Yeah, that's right. That little bit of that start line difference makes the world of change, especially on that last caution, last laps. When you're trying to push there, you could wreck in the tri-oval and you're naturally not going to finish. You're going to have to try and limp that truck back across the line. So that makes a big difference here, and it's the one that people will have to remember. It's sometimes, I know myself, you can go around and into that tri-oval and you'll just completely forget that the start line is actually a little bit further up. You don't want to time that run too early, because if you do that, they could maybe get the run back on you going across that start-finish line. So that will come in later when people will have to be trying to watch that for that finish. But everyone here from now on with a wider track should be a little bit calmer than what we've seen last week.
A little bit calmer as they work themselves through 3 and 4. And Jake, who are you watching today? Who do you think needs to have a big race?
I think Doyle Lawrence actually needs to have a really big race. He's in the points, 42 in, and he's just slowly in there right now. And I think Brad Patterson is well behind. Those two guys on the top side need a good run.
Patterson and Doyle need to run strong and have the qualifying to do so. Pace car is in. And are you ready? Let's roll as Chris J. Britt gets the green flag, and we are green here at your Raven Grafixx Let's Roll 300 at Talladega Superspeedway.
Good clean start there from Britt and Lemons. They timed that to perfection, and Patterson's already around off the nose of Gramuglia. Don't know, he's on the inside. I'm trying to find him. He just tapped the fence, I think. Yeah, he did with the rear end, and he is around, and those tires are going to be second hand from here.
Yeah, those tires will be second hand, but most importantly, we stay green. And the other thing you have to talk about with Brad is how the aerodynamics of that truck will work. But Jake, he's not even turned around yet. He's still on the inside of 1 and 2.
Yeah, he's struggling to get that truck back going, especially trying to climb the banking. When you want your loser going down in the dirty stuff, especially in the cooler track conditions, there's no grip down there, and he just had nothing from there on out. That truck doesn't look too bad. It does have some rear end damage, but we stay green, so he could easily be going a lap down already.
Yeah, very easily, as they're actually about to cross the stripe for your first time. Because Chris J. Britt, if he's going to actually lead the first lap, and Brad Patterson, he's only halfway down your super stretch, only going 160 miles an hour, not even up to speed just yet. He's going to be all by his lonesome. He needs to hope for a quick yellow to be able to get himself back out there, get himself back into contention. Meanwhile, Doug Lemons and Chris Britt, basically single file, people going underneath the yellow line. This is Brad Neer. That's a no-no zone. You have to be a bit like Dorothy here. Follow that yellow road. If you go away from it, might get yourself tagged with a penalty, Jake.
Yeah, don't want to go below that yellow line, and these guys are really working it hard already. They're in a sort of a single line, but some of these trucks are very loose in these cooler conditions. Some of the trucks trying to form up a line on the high side. That's the 87 of William Tony and Travis Townsend behind him, with Snelson as well following through in the 6 truck. So they're all trying to get that outside line working, and it looks like it's working. Look at the run that the 87 and the 83 have gotten on that high side, and they're already up to the 3rd truck in that low line.
Working the high line is something we talked about. That Daytona and Glovebox Racing is already out here doing it to perfection. You got Townsend up there and William Tony as well. Meanwhile, down on the inside, Chris J. Britt, Doug Lemons is down there, Doyle Lawrence is down there, Brad Neer, Travis Turnmeyer, a lot of guys who we saw who were very fast at Daytona, Jake, but have somewhat struggled in the latter part of the season.
Yeah, it looks like those super speedway experts, as you could say, are sort of coming to that forefront, coming up the front. We've known that at Daytona, like Brad Patterson was super quick straight out of the box. We thought he was going to have a good truck for the whole season, but started to fall off a little bit. He needed a good run today, which hasn't happened, but these guys are starting to work their way out the front. It's good to see the whip racing trucks as well starting to form up. There's 4 of them actually right now, 5 of them I should say, with Doyle Lawrence actually in front of them. They're all together and they will be strong tonight.
Absolutely right. And still 3 trucks working that high line, and we talked about that at Daytona, Jake, is the fact that you can make the high line work at these super speedways. It can be tough, but you need enough trucks out there to be able to make it work. The 87, William Toney, has a brilliant push from behind. That's Travis Townsend pushing him, trying to get him to the front, but not quite able to clear the 4 as they head into corners 3 and 4 again, and that's going to be where this inside line comes back. I think we need about another 3 or 4 trucks up to that high line to really make that group strong.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're actually still holding on with that many trucks on the high line. Only 3 trucks up there, and here there comes Brad Patterson. They're going to lap now. He's going to have to try and stick in and steal some of this draft. So
got Bobby Stewart moving up to the top. Brad Neer's up there. Aaron Ames. A lot of fast people moving up there, Jake. It's about to get racy.
Yeah, here we go. Those whip racing trucks, they needed to do something to get going, and it's definitely a 2-wide double file situation right now. Pretty much the whole field is 2x2 all the way through to the top 20, and these trucks are now going to start to get real racy up here. And those 2 whip racing trucks sort of sparked the entire thing. It was Brad Neer and Bobby Stewart went to that high line behind Snelson and Townsend, and then from there on out, everyone else was able to follow through in that pack. That was actually working that line before that we've seen, that we mentioned the last time round on the backstretch. Has actually now caught them, and that's put them in a good position up the front.
Big cluster of trucks stay to the high line, but they're struggling to keep themselves in a line. If you look at that, it's not really straight. It's kind of zigzaggy, and because of that, the draft isn't going to be nearly as strong. And look at the way
Nelson's been left to dry on the high line, so they're 3 wide now with Stelson on that high line trying to get back in line. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. He may be able to drop in behind the 57 in front of the 7, and he does that quite nicely right there. Drops down back into that high line, as you want to say, and he's going to flow behind the rest of the field. But it's definitely hurt the front of that pack, because Townsend has dropped a little bit behind, with Doyle Lawrence now leading him through.
Doyle Lawrence coming through a charge here through corners number 3 and 4, getting a good run from Townsend as they come off of corner number 4, and that 8 has a good head of most steam. Bunch of momentum as they work themselves now into your tri-oval, and if you were at Daytona, the finish line would be about here, but here you go about another, I think it's what, a quarter of a mile, Jake, a little bit less than that, before you get to that start-finish line. Yeah,
it's around about a quarter of a mile extra. I think it's a little bit less than a quarter of a mile, but it's there or thereabouts in that distance, and that's all you need. That's all it is. It's a couple of seconds when you're going 200 plus mile an hour through that tri-oval, and you get into that stripe. You're not going to have much time to blink, and these guys are already starting to get really racy. I'm surprised. Oh, that was one of the IFX cars in the background. Sponsored trucks moving up in the back. I think that was a 63. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, these trucks just double file at the moment. No caution, and we did have the one incident with Brad Patterson, but these guys are still trying to figure themselves out, which is good to see. We don't want the cautious like we had last week.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Right now at the very, very back of the field, you have Damian Plymesser and Brad Patterson currently just kind of going around at their own pace. Brad Patterson, of course, a lap down after that lap 1 incident. Damian Plymesser just seems to not have the speed here. Not quite sure what happened. Maybe he got shuffled out of line early as we were focusing on that. We're going to get replays of that next time we go to the green flag. But William Toney continues to lead the way here on the inside. That 8 again gets a big run coming off the corner, but not quite able to get there, I don't think. He's going to get the nose. Once they get into that corner, it's going to go back to that 87 on the inside. And interesting enough to me, Jake, is that Daytona race for the most part was very single file. We saw maybe 3 or 4 trucks get up to the high line for the most part of that race. However, for the vast majority of that one, they were basically single filing on the inside. Here, these guys are looking much more aggressive and much more willing to fight, as by the looks of it, William Toney will lead another lap here.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as well just then, Randy, that, yeah, these guys, you were single file for most of that race at Daytona. They come here and now they're doubling it up. They've got a little bit more comfortable as the season's gone on with each other, and now they're starting to really punch their weight and see what they can do with each other. And right here, this is the one where if you want to be single file, you can be, where you want to just sort of sit and wait. But these guys want to race early. We're only 11 laps in at the moment. And there's still 100 laps to go, so these guys have still got a long way to go tonight, and you don't want to get caught in that big one early.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not. You don't, really, ideally, you don't want to kick off that big one here, as I mean, we got very lucky with Brad's spin that he didn't take out a good chunk of the field. I think he very easily could have done so if they come around to log another lap here. But I think this is the stage of the race where people are just thinking about the late game. They're not thinking about leading laps now. They're not thinking about leading laps in 60 lap time. They're thinking about leading laps in 105 laps. That's the lap that these guys really, or rather 101 laps if they get my count wrong. That's where these guys, I think, are really thinking about, Jake. How am I going to get myself to the front at that point of the race? Because really, at this stage, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, at this stage, nothing happens. A little bit of a check up on the high side right now, and that has made a little bit of a split in the back of it. I think that was Doc Stout that went really high. They managed to form themselves back up and get going again, but they've lost ground to William Toney on that inside line, who was leading that charge. It's going to be interesting. These guys are all just sort of setting themselves up for those last 10 laps. That's all they are, or the last 20 laps when the guys in the back try and start to work their way through. That's when we'll see those cautions and that big one most likely come out. But one thing we've got to remember, we didn't have this last week, the green flag pit stops. We've had it before this season. I will be expecting we had the same similar scenario as we did in Daytona, where a green flag run will come in this early stages and we'll be having green flag pit stops.
Well, yeah, and talking about pit stops, I mean, that's the other thing that's interesting to me, as aggressive as these guys are being on this outside line. If you have to come down to pit, it can be very difficult. If you have a row of trucks inside of you that you have to drive through. Now, of course, basically everyone will be pitting around the same point here, probably within the same 2 to 3 laps. But still, there's a very good chance that if you're on that high line, you could just get stranded from your desired fuel mark and can't hit the pit lane either later, or maybe you have to come down early, or even just give up all sorts of track position to even get down there.
Yeah, that's one of the things that these guys are going to have to look after and make sure that they can get it right, especially with those whip racing trucks. We see them usually all come down pit road together. That's what you see with a lot of the teams, all coming down pit road together. But when you split up like this in the 2 lines, like notably when Bobby Stewart and Brad Neer went to that high side, now they got Doyle Lawrence in front of them. But their teammates of James Story and Travis Turnmeyer, they're on that inside line of the 4th and 5th truck in that line. So if they're going to come down pit road, they can easily go down without any hassle from trying to move way through trucks. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch how they play that one out, especially if they stay to that high line.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about whip racing right now, you have Bobby Stewart up there in the mix, Brad Neer, Doyle Lawrence is, of course, up in there. Like you said, James Torrey. There's a handful of whip racing trucks right within that top 10. And because of that, they should be able to pit themselves all together. Also important to note, what do we always see from whip racing, Jake? They always seem to be the ones that come down last.
Yeah, they're always the ones that you see going last. It's an interesting thing. They always run it out an extra couple of laps. They always manage to get that extra little bit more fuel out of their truck, or a little bit less fuel used in their trucks. And they are able to stretch their windows and their strategy open, which is a good thing to have. If you can stretch that strategy, it really opens it up. Because if a caution comes out while everyone's pitted and you guys haven't, that's the one thing that you will be hoping for if you are the ones that have stayed out. You get that track position, then you come down pit road. Some people may be trapped a lap down if they get caught a lap down, and then you can easily breeze on down pit road with no worries and come out there. So that's one of the things that those guys can easily play to their advantage, and it looks like at the moment the field has really calmed down.
Yeah, everyone's being relatively calm. We're still very much side by side all up and down throughout this one main pack, and that's really the other thing we've not really seen, Jake. You know, usually at super speedways you'll see 1 or 2 different packs develop. Here we have this big pack, and then you have the other really small one. It's just Plymesser and Patterson, and they, we think, both got involved in an incident. So really interesting that all these guys are this close, even with the draft, to be able to come up with this. And as I say that, Travis Townsend, he gets a big push here on the outside, and Doyle Lawrence actually dropped down to the inside, but he's not going to lead this lap, so we missed that one as well. Doyle moves to the inside. He gets to the lead of that inside pack, but almost immediately Travis Townsend gets a big head of steam, but not quite able to get it done as they work into 1 and 2.
Yeah, Doyle dropped down in the back of just coming into 3 and 4, dropped down into that low line. He was clear, and then Townsend thought, I'm just going to try and get clear now with that big shove from Bobby Stewart behind. And it looks like that top line really has it going for them, because that's Townsend's going to drop down right now. So they're just going to keep funneling through as one of the trucks on the high side. I think that was Al Senna nearly in the fence entering 3 and 4. It looks like he is got that truck back going, and he's going to be okay. He didn't hit any of the walls, just was really up high there on the entry to 3. And Looks like these trucks of Bobby Stewart are brand new. Maybe the next ones that will be able to take the head of the steam at the line, and they will. Bobby Stewart will lead that lap.
Wow, that's 2 laps in a row that we've seen a truck get to the head of your inside line and not lead that lap. Both Travis Townsend as well as Dor Lawrence on the inside are going to be doing a Yosemite Sam-like rant, I'm sure. As let's see what Bobby Stewart and Brad Neer are able to do. Who's that third in line behind them? Is that their teammate? That's Perry Snelson back there. So no, not a teammate of theirs. But still, Brad Neer and Bobby Stewart, we saw them work very, very well together at Daytona. It seems to be working now. I think with their momentum, is what's gotten both Travis and Doyle up into that dominant position. And I have to say, I think right now they're trying to find a way to get Doyle somehow in line with them, whether it's them coming down or him coming up.
Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to plan here. I think if they're trying to get the team together or get everyone on that low line for pit stops, because that's what they need to do, especially with those two sticking up on the high side. They're in a bit of a trouble at the moment, a trouble position. And look at one of the trucks that have come up through the field. Just going to mention it now. That 7 truck of Burt Wilson. He started in I wouldn't say dead last, but 20th on that 10th row of the grid, and he is all the way up into 8th at the moment. He is the 4th car on that high line. He's done an awesome job to be able to get that truck up there.
Yeah, he is your biggest mover and shaker in this race thus far. He up 12 positions is Burt Wilson. Biggest follower, of course, Brad Patterson down 18 spots. A couple other people that have moved up well. Al Senna's up 6 spots. Perry Snelson's up 6 spots from 12th to 6th. And Travis Townsend qualified 10th and currently has himself running up towards the front. So, people a lot of times like to say these tracks aren't very racy, but in my opinion, you can get a lot of good shuffling here, and seems to me that the people who tend to race well week in, week out know how to get themselves out front here at these super speedways.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even if you have a trouble qualifying like Townsend has tonight, he was able to get that truck up there quite quickly up to that front and work with it. And he's doing a good job. Just seeing in the view, there could be a couple of trucks getting lapped, which is Plymesser and Brad Patterson for the 2nd time tonight. He'll be going another lap down. So the next couple of laps, they may catch those two and put them a lap down. But because they're together, they'll be a little bit quicker and they may be able to hold onto the pack when they come past.
Yeah, but that's going to be the nail in the coffin for Patterson, I think, because currently he's the only truck a lap down. So he needs to hope for yellow, and he needs to hope for one quick, because if they come through and if they get around Damian Plymesser, put him a lap down, suddenly Plymesser will be a lap down, Patterson will be down 2, so no lucky dog to go the way of Patterson.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's going to burn Patterson right now. He wishes that he wasn't with Damian Plymesser, but he does and doesn't. It's sort of a half-half situation. What do you want to do? Whether you want to run with this guy who's not on the pace at the moment after he dropped away from the pack, or do you just want to run by yourself and try and get that lap back solo and not put anyone else a lap down? So he's in that position. I think he's going to drop the lap down. He may get some cautions late in the race if it stays as is, where he is will be the only one 2 laps down if a caution comes out and puts Plymesser in that lucky dog position. So we'll see. They're on that high side now getting lapped. If they can drop down behind these guys, they may be able to catch up, but I don't think they have a good amount of speed to be able to do that.
Yeah, Plymesser and Patterson up on the high side, and choo-choo, the freight train's coming through, and there goes your entire field by basically in the span of turn 1 to turn 2. So that's just, how quickly it can happen here, and great racing by those guys to move up to the top, just let everyone go through on the inside. I think probably some good communication from spotters to tell this entire pack that there were going to be trucks up on that high line.
Yeah, it was a good job from the pack. When there was 2 trucks up there, they all stayed to their high line, middle line really at the moment, and that low line. So they're all still running around. Not a lot of changing up the front now. Ever since Bobby Stewart got to the head of the steam on that high side, they haven't really done much headway. They've been leading laps as he does again, but they haven't been able to drop down. Can he do it now entering 1? I think he thought about it. He does it. So that puts Bobby Stewart to the lead of that bottom line. That was a little bit of a risky move going through the middle of 1 and 2, but he was clear. He knew what he was doing, and he dropped it down there.
Yeah, and he actually doesn't get a good runner. Look at the run that 76 gets. This will almost surely be able to get him clear. He's going to be able to drop down in front. This is going to put Whip Racing completely in charge of that inside line for the time being. Travis Townsend, of course, 3rd in line, but 4th in line again is another Whip Racing truck. So these guys starting to try to figure out how to form up, and looks like Townsend may be thinking about going up to that high line. Not quite yet. There's not a space. Maybe if they got a good run, and that 6 on the outside of Perry Snelson trying to harass Brad Neer to lead this lap, but no, Neer's going to get it.
Yeah, Neer's going to get that one led. Snelson has a little bit of damage to the right front of that truck. Looks like it should be okay though. It's just a little bit of a bump, maybe hit one of the trucks bump drafting a little bit too hard and it's just bent it a little bit, but he's okay. He's got Burt Wilson behind him, who started 20th like I said earlier on. He is working his way all the way up into this top 5 now, and he needs to try and get Perry Snelson a good shove to get in front of those 2 Whip Racing trucks on that low line, but they haven't got enough trucks now there in that high line. It's sort of dropped away, and Wilson and Snelson have actually pulled away from the rest of that high line.
I think a little bit of hiccups on that high line. Doc Stout and Glenn Jameson, they both fell off the back of the other trucks that are up there, and look who goes to the top. That's going to be Travis Townsend. So we saw a little bit of it at Daytona, Jake. It's going to happen again. Whip Racing completely in control of this inside line so long as Brad Neer can hold on to the front, and he's just able to as the 6 loses his head of steam.
Wow, I thought the 6 then was about to just pull down in front of that low line and get that position done, but he wasn't able to, and that's where that Whip Racing team just pulled through, got that inside line moving again, and they're going to work their way back up to the front with Perry Snelson on that high side. Doc Stout moves out on the high line. You don't want to be doing that entering 3 and 4 in case Glenn Jameson had a better run going through there. They do have William Tony behind Doyle Lawrence on this inside line. That's actually just a little bit of a separation there. Chris J. Britt and Doug Lemons as well. Behind Lemons in that bright green truck is Termeyer and James Torrey. So those 2 just sitting there as well. The other Whip Racing trucks are not up with these guys up front, but it puts them in a good position if the pit stops were to come soon.
Yeah, and I mean, really at this point, pit stops, I think we're probably expecting somewhere in the realm of 30 to 40 laps, I think, Jake. Maybe that's a little bit long, but we're on lap 26. We're probably a good percentage, through this run. So I mean, I think a lot of these guys, we see that top line starting to really thin out. People thinking about getting onto pit road, or what do you think this top line is starting to thin out? I mean, we saw Neer and Bobby Stewart. They were up there kind of leading the charge. They dropped down. A lot of people seem to kind of follow suit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were trying to just get to that front, the chain of a car going to the front on that high line, dropping down, going to the front, dropping down. It was sort of the chain of everyone, and that's where we had about 4 or 5 trucks that actually got to the front and pulled down. I think William Tony was the first to do it, and everyone after that had done that. So I think it was about 4 or 5 trucks, including Townsend, who's now on that high side, that actually were able to follow that chain and drop down. And now that chain has sort of stopped. So I think our center is dropping off that high line. He's lost a lot of speed there, but he should be okay coming down this backstretch. But yeah, these trucks will be looking for the pit stop, so that's why some of these guys will be looking to move to that inside now. Those Whip Racing trucks we won't be expecting anytime soon, knowing they'll be going long.
Yeah, the outside playing a 200 mile per hour game of leapfrog as that 6 starts to get a bit of a run, and you mentioned it, Jake, that he had a bit of damage. I think that's why we've seen this leapfrogging sort of stop. I mean, the 6 does get a very big shove from the 7 of Burt Wilson every single time they get to a straightaway, but look how much they just fall back once they get to the corners. I mean, Bobby Stewart and Brad Neer, they were doing very well. They were almost able to maintain side by side as they went through the corners. Look how much the 6 falls off, but then when they come back, look at the push he gets. I think the 6, with that little bit of drag, a little bit of damage, is losing that high line, the edge it had. And I mean, look, it's down to 4 or 5 trucks deep.
Yeah, he's losing it just on the corners itself. It looks like that front isn't where it wants to be at the moment with that little bit of damage, and Wilson is shoving that truck around. I would hate to be the motor in that truck right now. It's most probably cooking up a storm, but he's trying to see what he can do and get that 6 truck in front and get some cool air. But he has been stuck to that tailgate for the past 3 to 4 laps, and he will be looking for air soon.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. People, overheating here can be a huge concern as Brad Neer continues to lead the way on the inside. We got a couple people that are kind of eyeballing that 3rd lane here, Jake, and that's something we normally don't see in these cars. Normally they stick to just the 2. That high line really isn't all that great. You can't maintain the momentum the way you want, but I think if Perry Snelson's up there losing you as much ground as he currently is, I mean, look at the way they fall through the corners at 3 and 4, and that was all Snelson, I think. I don't think that was anyone else. Do you try to go to that 3rd line just to get around him?
I think it may happen. If someone gets a little bit impatient in this high line, it could do it. You just leave the 6 truck on the middle you'd say Wilson will go up and Townsend may follow, and the rest will just follow through and leave Snelson, the piggy, in the middle and just dropping all the way to the back. So I think that may be what could happen if Wilson wants to get this run going, but I think they're still content at the moment to sit here. Actually, I think they're going to move Snelson to the top. No, they're not, so they're going to come drop back down. But yeah, the run that Snelson's getting isn't as great as we've seen on that high line before. And also, there's not as many trucks in that high line that's able to push them along.
Coming around now, corners 3 and number 4. Bradney still in control, and Perry Snelson trying to get the run to get himself down to that inside line. He's getting a good shove from the 7 this time by as they cross the stripe to mark 75 miles score complete. But no, I don't think Snelson's going to get anywhere near the run to get themselves down to that inside line going into corner number 1. They head into corner number 1 again for the 31st time, and the entire field basically still starting to get themselves strung out on that inside line. I have to say, lap 31 right now, Jake, pit stop's going to be happening soon.
Yeah, the pit stops will be happening soon. And just having a look back, Damien Plymesser was actually able to catch onto this pack, but Aaron Ames has fallen a long way back with Brad Patterson, so they're down all the way back, about half a track length behind the field, so they'll be trying to sort themselves out. But yeah, Snelson's still stalling out on that high line where he needs to really get going. He's got a good shove coming out of 4 down this into the tri-oval right now. He may be able to lead this lap, and he's gotten that clean air. I think he's going to get that nose in front. He has a good shove from Wilson. Can he drop down? He does, and makes that one stick. So let's see what Wilson and Townsend can do. I don't think it'll be too long before we see them up the front.
Maybe, but maybe not, because, I mean, look at the gap they have to the trucks behind. Because this is essentially, at least for the time being, going to make that outside line only 2 trucks strong. Yeah, there's 3 more trucks on the outside, but they're 2, 3, 4 truck lengths back, and because of that, not going to be too strong of a draft for those guys. But as I say that, they start to work up. Who is this on that high line? Doc Stout's out there, Glenn Jamieson's up there, Jason Sizlove is up there. Some people who need to have some good races and get themselves some good points in the championship. And then I say that, look at that top line already formed back up, 5 trucks strong.
Yeah, that top line's already formed back up, and Wilson needs a strong run as well, the leader of that high line, and he's going to try and see what he can do up there. He's going to work this high line. Now that they got a 5 trucks strong out there, they should be able to get back up to the front. It looks like they are. Wilson's already alongside Bobby Stewart. He should be able to get to Brad near maybe as they go, and that was Sizlove just picking a spot in that low line and just threading the needle, and he was lucky not to turn himself across on the front of Doug Lemons' truck.
Yeah, very dicey moment there towards your mid pack, as looks to me that outside line down to 4 trucks, and look at how it's affecting them, starting to fall back more and more. Not able to really fight is Burt Wilson on that outside, with Travis Townsend trying to push him, and they work themselves now through the tri-oval again, and that inside line is starting to get more and more populated as we work lap number 34 as they head down into corner 1 and 2 again.
Yeah, I think this is the stage where everyone is starting to think about this green flag pit stop, starting to get ready to come down into pit road. For the first time that we've seen in a week about this green flag run. We haven't had one last week at Martinsville. It was mainly caution-filled pit stops, and these guys are going to be now working their way to come. And Burt Wilson and Townsend nearly were able to get down into the front and drop down. This 4 truck strong is actually really doing a good job on that high line right now to keep up with that low line that's a good 16 trucks strong.
Yeah, they got a really big shove there as Townsend again starts to go to work on the back end of that 7 to try to get them there to the front, but one of them bobbled a little bit because of that, not able to get the run that they need, and also as well got a truck up there on the high line, 3rd in line. He was eyeballing that high outside line, so not going to be getting the draft from there. Important to note, or something we should kind of mention here, someone who's keenly absent tonight is Mr. Tim Marlowe, struggling with the loss of a loved one. Thoughts and prayers go out to him, though, as still, as I say that, the 7 gets another big run down this long back straightaway. They head into corner number 3.
Yeah, unfortunately for that, and our thoughts are with you there, Tim. In the tough times you have ahead, and Wilson right now, he was looking to get that run on Snelson, but not able to. They're just sort of dropping away a little bit here, and no one is thinking to come down pit road this time. So everyone's just sort of calm right now. There's only those 4 trucks on the high side. We'd seen most of the field was double file, and now pretty much all single file. This was sort of what we've seen at Daytona. A couple of trucks trying to work that high side. Some of them couldn't get it done, and we're pretty much just floating around. So I think this is where we're at. We're at that Daytona stage of the field, and Snelson came a long way up there, and that's broken Wilson and Townsend up, and it's going to stop that high side line.
Cuts the momentum of the high line perfectly as they work themselves down this long back straightaway and into corner number 3 again. Working lap number 36. Perry Snelson been in control of the field for a while now, and it's more or less staying that way, and that high line falls off a little bit as they go to the exit of 4. Brad Neer still pushing Perry Snelson, and it's important to note that behind that leader of Perry Snelson, it's still a whip racing train, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in line. So if Perry Snelson ends up having to come in early, that's going to put them right in command of the field. And Jake, I think that's where whip racing want to be. We know they like to go late. Even more advantageous if you can do so from the front of the pack rather than the middle or back.
Yeah, I think that's what they'll be trying to do here, is trying to go long, and yeah, if they can do it from the front, who knows where they're going to end up when the whole field cycles through. And if they all come down together, they're going to be able to form straight up as soon as we get going and make a move for that front. So we'll see when this pit stop starts. We're working lap 37 of 113 here at Talladega, so the trucks will be soon coming down for that first cycle of pit stops. Anytime soon, we think. We're looking at 30 to 40 window. It could be 40 to 50. These trucks have done a good job right now. No caution as of yet. We've only had one incident with Brad Patterson on the green flag start, getting turned down to the inside.
The very clean race thus far, except for that one incident as they go into corner number 1 and 2 again. And it seemed to me there, Jake, Perry Snelson running that side of middle line on the going into corner number 1. You actually see him come up a little bit through the through corners number 1 and 2. We know these trucks were very much on edge at Daytona as the 83 gives a big shot to the 7. Look at the run he gets, but not quite able to get clear of the 6. So Burt Wilson not able to get clear just yet. He's going to fall 1 to 2 truck lengths back. But interesting that we already see Perry really fighting with this, really fighting that outside line, shutting off that door a little bit.
Yeah, he's just sliding up a little bit, trying to cover that high line on that bottom line. It's doing well, but look at the shove that the 7 gets. He's going to get alongside him, and again, Snelson just moving up, trying to stop that high line, get that run. He's done a good job to stop it this time, but it looks like he's not going to get around there. But if they get a good enough shove going down this backstretch, I wouldn't be surprised if Burt Wilson is able to drop down right now to take that top spot in that low line. It looks like Townsend is not going to give up this one too easy, and down goes the 7, and that's going to be a new leader on that inside line. Now let's put Townsend to the front of the high line.
Burt Wilson in command of the field, and with that, your outside line drops to 3 trucks strong. It's actually a pretty big checkup on your inside line with a lot of these guys. A little bit of checking up there when Burt dropped down. And look at the run that your outside line's able to get. Travis Townsend surely will be able to get clear here, be able to drop down. What about Doc Stout? Looks like Doc Stout's going to get clear here. Will he be able to clear it? No, he wasn't aggressive enough, and because of that, Townsend might just shut that door. Stout had an opportunity to get to that inside line. Jake didn't just take it. Suddenly, in the blink of an eye, that outside line goes from 3 trucks to 2, and there was a very real chance he could have dropped off to 1, although I think Stout likely staying with his teammate of Jamison.
Yeah, no, that was a surprise. I thought he was going to drop down and maybe get that one done, and he just didn't. He just stayed up there, and they're not teammates. They may be running close numbers. Jamison with Evolution Motorsports and Doc Stout with Olfart Sim Racing as he drops down to the lead of this one again. So now he's left Glenn Jamison out there all by his lonesome. And now he's going to have to try and figure out what he's going to do to try and get down to this low line.
We had a spin. Brent Keith on the back straightaway got turned around. Not sure how this happened. This would have been at the tail end of your pack. We didn't see it. This would have been going into corner number 3 and 4. Getting a replay of that up on your screen now, and he just got hooked. That's all that was. Brent Keith got spun by Sean Miller, and that's one of the things that happen here, Jake. You get that drafting. You start pushing. It's not uncommon for you to get bumper hooked and just turn around and be facing the wrong way.
Yeah, got bumper hooked hard going down there, going down the backstretch. It looks like a lot of these trucks are looking to pit. We had last time round, I think that was one of the back markers, Damien Plymouth, I seen go down pit road. So we'll see. This could be the starting cycle. There goes Townsend. There goes Stout. Who else is going to follow? Franklin Muglia from further back in the pack, the 13 truck, as well as Al Senna. So here we go. Some of the green flag pit stops have begun. And let's see who's going to be the next to blink as Wilson and Glenn Jamison are out in front.
Senna, as he came down the pit lane, hit the commitment cone, so I believe he'll see a penalty for that. And actually, as not only did he do that, he actually missed his pit box too. And here's the thing, Jake, a lot of people may not think it, just with the way the track works, just because it is so easy. If there's a truck down on the apron currently re-entering up onto the racetrack, not sure who that is, but you lose that little bit of time, 3, 4, or 5 seconds with a penalty, maybe even missing your pit box. Anyone you just came down the pit road with, you don't have that draft anymore. I'd say a pit road penalty here is much, much worse than just about anywhere else, as we got more trucks coming down pit road. Burt Wilson's coming in, the 63's coming in, Perry Snelson's coming in, so 3 more guys coming down the pit road here, but Luke Houston staying out in front, Brad Neer, Bobby Stewart, Doyle Lawrence, William Toney, a lot of whip racing trucks out here staying out, as well as some others.
Yeah, the Whip Racing Trucks 3 at the moment, right, heading this field. You've got Chris J. Britt and William Toney behind them, as well as Size Love and Lemons. And I seen Turnmeyer as well as Tory pull out going down the front stretch, but weren't able to get that one done, so they're going to sit there. And that looks like that's one of the lap trucks moving up on that high side, 56 of Sean Miller, after coming out of the pit lane, trying to get back up to speed. We'll see whether these Whip Racing trucks come down this time. 3 of them are in front. If we see those 3 drop down, we expect the rest of them to drop down, and no, they don't. So look who is out. Look who's left. All of the Whip Racing trucks, all 5 of them, stay out to go again.
Jake obviously knows a lot more about the teams than I do, but we talked about it at Daytona, and it's happened at Vegas. It's happened a few times this championship here, Jake. These guys like to go long, and we've talked about this before. This can definitely work in their favor, and it's just interesting to me, what have these guys found that enable them to go that extra lap, extra 2 laps? Because at a place like this where you're on the gas all the way around, it's not easy to save a lap of fuel. It's not easy to save 2 laps of fuel, but every single race we've seen, they've done it.
Yeah, every single one they can do it, and it's they just know what they're doing. By the look of it, they had a lot of experience. Bobby Stewart, obviously the owner of the series, he knows what he's doing. Is all 5 of these Whip Racing trucks now come down. It's just a Whip Racing pit party right now as they all come down pit road. And I've seen the last trucks come down pit road. Ryan Campbell, I think, went through his box. William Toney as well ran through his box. So a couple of trucks running through their box, running long into there, obviously just trying to push it as hard as they can, and sometimes it's not paying off. But all these Whip Racing trucks, they turn each other around. Turnmeyer's been turned, trying to get to his pit box, and he is now 90 degrees. He may have to try and go again through the pit box, and that's unfortunately an incident for the Whip Racing team.
Disaster for teammates on pit road. You don't normally see pit lane incidents here, but that's definitely unfortunate. Turnmeyer is going to cost him a lot of time as he missed his pit box as well. So Turnmeyer, this is a disaster for him. That's almost race ruin, considering when you factor in the damage, the amount of time lost in pit road, Jake.
Yeah, that is going to really hurt and burn Turnmeyer right now. He's still on pit road. He's leaving now, and he's going to be nowhere when that pack comes by, because the pack is already exiting turn 2. So that is technically going to be day done for Turnmeyer. He's going to need a caution to try and bring him back in. Just got turned off the front of Doyle Lawrence, I think it was. He was just trying to pull down. I don't think Doyle, no communication there where Doyle and Turnmeyer's pit box was. And that was all it took to hurt Turnmeyer and take one of the Whip Racing trucks pretty much behind the 8 ball right now. But the 2 out in front, there's as Tory and Doyle Lawrence actually go to the low line. But these 2, Bobby Stewart and Brad Neer, are out in front, and they should be able to hold that once this pack catches them.
Yeah, hopefully they're able to. They're currently trying to get themselves back up to speed as their 2 teammates get swallowed by the monster that is this pack of trucks as they work into corner number 1 and 2. Now the pack going to be going to the high line. Townsend leading it. Gramuglia, Senna, Doc Stout, Snelson. That's your top 5 in line here as they work themselves off of corner number 2. And look at the momentum that they have here as they come off. But I think the important thing to know here, Jake, much better green flag stops here from the entirety of the field as Gramuglia is going to cut down to that inside line, kind of leave Townsend out to dry. He's going to have Brad Neer and Bobby Stewart behind.
Yeah, good move there from Frank Gramuglia. Just pulled down, got that low line now, and he's going to bring them back up to the front. Gramuglia dropped back after that incident with Brad Patterson from the word go, but he's worked his way all the way back up the front. He's going to see what he can do now that he's up at the pointy end. Townsend's still up there with our center, who we haven't seen much of tonight. also working that high side behind him. So come to these trucks, that's the thing, it's shuffling through. These green flag pit stops have really started to put some people in different positions, and it looks like as well Doug Lemons, last week's winner, is now on the high side. I don't think he's been up there all night.
Yeah, I think he's more or less been relatively calm and collective down there towards your mid-pack on that inside line, and really we saw that from Doug at Daytona. Doug, of course, came away with the win, but I don't actually remember talking about Doug very much at that race. It was a lot more talking about whip versus glove box, as well as Brad Patterson and a couple other drivers at that race.
Yeah, we never mentioned Doug Lemons much that round, as we got a lap truck on the inside. That was Brent Keefe, one of the spinners, just before that caution, just before the green flag pit stop, when no caution came out. So he's going to try and form up here. He will drop to a lap down, and if he can catch this draft, he should be in a good position to be able to keep and get that lap pack if a caution was to come out. And yeah, so yeah, we didn't mention Doug Lemons much at Daytona. I don't think we mentioned him at all until he was up at the pointy end, and he's done the same thing, been pretty quiet. Obviously, we've been watching him now because it's the full season. He's won a couple of races. He won last week at Martinsville. So we know what he can do, and he's just going to flow down to that inside line and just still sit back there about the 5th truck in line and just cruise around.
Yeah, that's basically what they're doing. He works himself back down into that inside line, and that high line starts to falter and get a little bit short on the truck count again, Jake. And so you know we're seeing this so early. I mean, these guys were really aggressive running up towards that high line all the way up until the point where there are only 2 to 3 laps to go until the pit stops. Now it seems like people may be willing to be a lot more patient here with this second run. Only 3 trucks holding on to that top line as we near on lap number 50 here.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be forming up like Daytona again. A couple of trucks on that high line trying to figure out what they can do up there. But with 3 trucks, you're going to be having a tough time trying to figure out what you can do. That looks like that was Ryan Campbell has pulled out, Jason Sizlove, as well as Glenn Jameson as well. So they've all pulled out on the trucks a little bit further behind, just on the outside of the top 10. So they're going to see if they can make that high line work for them and try and catch these 3 in front of them and make it a 6-car train on the high side.
We've seen that. I think the key number here for this high line tends to be about 4 to 5 minimum. I think you have 3. You don't usually have enough to be able to get around that leader on the inside. It takes kind of a checkup from that guy on the inside in order to do it. We've seen it happen, but it's not very common. But now they drop back a little bit to the leaders on that high line. And look at what's happened now. That high line is formed up. 6 trucks all in a row. They should be strong here. And look at this. The run already starts as you go down your back straightaway. Townsend working your high line in the 83. A big run into 3, Jake, but still not quite enough yet. But I have to say, I think that's the calm before the storm for your inside line.
Yeah, I think these guys are already starting to get ready to freight train that inside line. I was just having a look. Going down this past lap, but Perry Snelson, he still has that damage on the front, and he hasn't been able to actually get right on that rear bumper of the 73 in front of him. I don't know whether that is hurting him a little bit. Obviously, the little bit of damage may be affecting that aero because he hasn't actually been able to close up 100% straight to that rear bumper, and everyone else has been right on his rear bumper as well. So it's maybe something to watch where Perry Snelson is, just in case he does have a little bit of a checkup, because he just can't get to the front bumper, and that downforce isn't helping him as this high line is still trying to work at it. And Townsend is going to be clear. He is, and that's going to move him down to the point.
With a big shove from Al Senna, they got Travis Townsend down to the point, and I think that's really the first time we've seen him out there. Will the 85 get a run, though? We've seen it a couple times. The truck's able to get out front, get to the inside, but that outside line gets a big run, not able to hold on to the lead. But no, I think Townsend will be able to hold on to this one if they cross the stripe. Yes, he will. He will lead that lap by 0.24 of a second as they work into corners number 1 and 2 again. And up on the high line, some more people moving up there. Who's this on the outline? That's a new face that we've not seen in a while. Ryan Campbell, about 4 or 5 trucks back on that outside line. Perry Snelson still kind of struggling, trying to get to Bobby Stewart. Sizelove's moving up there. Britt, Lemons, Wilson, Tori's back there. Lawrence is back there. There's some people. This outside line is starting to pick up pace again, and is starting to get stronger and stronger as this second run goes on.
They're starting to get stronger and stronger, and look who's on that really high line up near the fence, the 54 truck. of Travis Termeyer has just been passed as Al Senna gets the run coming off the 3 and 4 and goes down to the inside line and takes that point away from the rest of the field. So Al Senna will lead this one through. But yeah, Termeyer now with that spin on pit road is trying to get as much pace as he can and hook onto the back of this toe to be able to keep it going. And he's got only one other truck with him in this pack that I remember of. Brent Keith is amongst this pack that could challenge him for that lucky dog if the caution was to come out.
Highline gets a good run again, but it quickly falls short. 62 was getting a bit of a push. I think the 63 got loose, dropping back down the banking, and because of that, not able to keep up the push. So because of that, for this time by, that high line's just going to kind of shuffle back a little bit, get themselves regrouped. But this inside line still looking very strong. As Townsend, I'm sure Townsend's going to be a little frustrated that he got through, or that Al Senna got around him so easily, it seemed like. Because we've seen Townsend get to that point first, that point on the inside.
Yeah, he's gotten to that point numerous times, Al Senna, and he hasn't been able to do anything with it. Travis Townsend, sorry, at that end. So we'll see what he can do at the moment, and it looks like Al Senna has pulled back up to the high line. Interesting move there at the moment from Al Senna. We've also got Doc Stout right behind him, giving him a shove with Glenn Jameson there, but it was interesting knowing that Al Senna just moved up to that high line, left Townsend down there by himself, and it's given actually that inside line a bit more of a run where they can't actually get back around him.
Very interesting decision there by Al Senna as they work themselves again through your tri-oval. And the thing to note here is Doc Stout and Al Senna are teammates. I think what Senna is trying to do here is to get Stout to follow him and trying to get such a big run that the two of them can both get to that inside line. I can't think of any other reason that they would shuffle back up there like that. But as I say that, the 62 goes to the ultra high line, and look at this, that outside line just tends to really falter. I think the 62, he either got tight, got loose, got something. Because of that, he had to basically shoot himself up an entire lane, and look at the way he's just fallen back. So Al Senna, if his goal was to work with a teammate, well, it just got wasted.
Yeah, well, they do have that teammate on the inside of Travis Townsend as well. You got Townsend, Al Senna, and Doc Stout. They're all working together up the front. And is Al Senna going to drop down now? He's got a big shot from Glenn Jameson behind in that 63 truck, and he's just going to sit up there on the high side. Maybe Glenn Jameson's going to come down with him, and he does that. So he's brought Glenn Jameson with him in front of his teammate, pulled them both down. That means Ryan Campbell will now be on the point, but it looks like that is not what Glenn Jameson wants to do. He's going to pull back up to that high side and see if he can take the point for Evolution Motorsports.
And Al Senna's going to go, and he's going to be defensive, but he's going to get hung out to dry. Al Senna, he tried to run the defensive move, trying to block both lanes, but because of that, both lanes say, nah, Al, not today, and they will freight train him, and he will fall like a rock in the middle of the racetrack, 3 wide through the middle of the pack. And the moment you get too aggressive, Jake, that's something that can always happen on these super speedways. The moment both lanes decide they don't want you there, you just fall.
Yeah, an aggressive move from Glenn Jameson in front as well. I don't think he was a bumper clear. He got that perfect on Travis Townsend and shut the door on that low line, took that point away. And yeah, Al Senna, he's lucky actually not to drop as far back as I thought he would have. He's still there in the middle of the pack. He's now been able to get the line working with Ryan Campbell in front of him, and they're going to start to work their way back up. So somehow he hasn't dropped all the way to the back. He's got Doug Lemons behind him. Townsend pulls up to the high side. Now we're going to be 3 wide battling for this lead.
This place is looking a lot more racy in your second stretch of this race than it did before. Suddenly, when 2 wide was the norm, 3 wide is becoming oh so common as Campbell in that ultra high line. Who all's out there? Campbell, Sizlove, Chris J. Britt's up there. 3 trucks strong is that ultra high line, and we're not used to seeing this, Jake. Normally here, we're used to see maybe 2 rows, 3 strong rows here, and that outside line is holding station extraordinarily well with the 3 trucks. The middle lane gets a good run. Suddenly that inside line is looking like it's not the place to be, as who's that actually dropping down to the inside? That's Al Senna, already back to the front.
Al Senna back to the front after all this is going on, and that's put Doug Lemons and Doc Stout in that middle group, and people are actually moving up into that middle lane. The high side's still being able to come, and I've just seen there's a couple of trucks in front. The next time by, we will catch them and lap them. I think that is Glenn Jameson and Sean Miller. So if that's the case, they're going to have nowhere to go, and if we're still 3 wide by that happens, this could be a little bit chaotic, and we may see the caution, but it looks like these guys are trying to sort themselves out. They know that there's another truck that these trucks are coming through, and they've all sort of dropped down that high line and have pulled out as Doug Lemons and Doc Stout actually thought about moving up. They had a little look to leave our center in that middle groove, but they heard that those two trucks are on the high side and dropped back in line.
We know the room is there at Talladega to be able to run 4 wide, but do you have the bravery and to be able to do it as Al Senna gets a big push from Doug Lemons? There's a name we've not talked about hardly all day. Mention the fact that he's down in your mid-pack running calmly. Suddenly he's up 2nd and 3rd position here at Talladega, and that's just the way it goes here, Jake, as they're getting ready to put these trucks on the high line a lap by. Once the big cluster kind of starts forming, once things start to really get just get crazy, when it's just putting yourself in a position, in your best position possible in the blink of an eye to move up spots. Doug Lemons seems to be extraordinarily good at that. Travis Townsend this season undoubtedly been the fastest, most successful, but I think Doug Lemons has been the best when it comes to actually racing and driving through a field as Al Senna drops back down to the inside.
Yeah, Al Senna drove back to the inside. Doug Lemons has been that standout that can drive through and figure out what he needs to do as Al Senna moves back up the blocker. We may be going 3 wide again, and he doesn't, so Doug Lemons is going to have to roll out of that one and stay behind. But these two trucks were a lap down, have joined the end of the queue as well. And,
Doug.
Doug was looking there. That was either loose, tight, got a bit of a shove behind from Ryan Campbell, but he's okay now. We've just passed the halfway point, and it looks like everyone has gone chaotic over this one. We're going to see what they can do here in the second half of this race, but that looks like Glenn Jameson's going to look to the high side, and they're going to try 3 wide again. No, they're not. That was Jason Sizlove back in the pack having a look.
Come on, boys, you know you want it. You guys tried it for a few laps, and it was working well. Someone get that 3rd row going, please. But that high line on the outside is still looking strong. I think if we get a bit of a checkup down there, I think it'll start up again, Jake, because the catalyst last time was at 85, trying to block, and here we go. Getting 3 rows for me again. Al Senna in the middle, again left out to dry. What are these guys? Do they not like Al? Is Doug Lemons going to go to the point? The 44 gets a little loose. Be careful, bud. The wall's up there very close. Don't want to see you hit there. And again, we're starting to see the 3 wide start to form here. Looks like Ryan Campbell up there on the high line. He's being left out to dry. What is it about Al Senna? These guys just don't want to work with him.
Yeah, it's like no one wants to work with that 85 truck at the moment, but they're all swapping positions, swapping lanes. I don't think anyone has any clue where they want to be at the moment. It looks like Doug Lemons has also got some damage from a bit of a shove there, so that may have been the cause of him pulling up and moving out of the way of Al Senna, because he has now got some front end damage as Al Senna comes up again and blocks the line, and that's another one Glenn Jameson tried to block. They're going to go 3 wide for the point right now coming down the back stretch.
3 wide for your lead here at Talladega, but it's not going to be for long. Al Senna is going to fall down due to lack of no draft, no help up there. But with these people that are running in the back, will they be inspired by that 85 truck out there on the outside? Will they go up there by the looks of it? Not quite. So Al Senna, who we saw start so far down your order here, literally in last place, 22nd starter here, and he led laps. He now falls back down towards the tail end of your field here as this field gets themselves back going 2 wide. Al Senna able to get put back down in the line here in that high row. Travis Townsend, he's currently leading on the inside row. We haven't been able to talk about that at all, Jake. Too much going on in the 63 and the 70 going to run. And Jason Sizlove, how did Sizlove find himself the 2nd truck in line on the inside? Weren't we talking about him just 3 laps ago being up against the wall?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I was about to mention that as well. That Sizlove came out of nowhere and was running 2nd in that inside line. I don't know how he got there, where he got there. He obviously used some magician tricks and got there and put the truck in the 2nd on that inside line. I don't know where he came from. And he was able to get it done, and now Townsend's looking to go to the high side of Glenn Jameson. He's going to do that, but it looks like he's going to go too high, and that's going to make it 3 wide down the front stretch, and Doug Lemons is going to get a position there, and that is going to leave Townsend out for dry, but our center's going to come up and try and follow him through. It has really gone chaotic at the moment, and one of the teams that we haven't mentioned since all this has started is Whip Racing. They're just sitting back a little bit further back and just going to chill out there and wait for all this to go on.
Yeah, Whip Racing are just sort of like, nope. When it comes to all this 3 wide stuff, they're just sort of hanging out as Doug Lemons gets a good shove, and he gets a very, very aggressive move done to cut off that inside line. That was a big shove by his teammate Ryan Campbell to get himself out there to the point as they begin to settle down, get themselves back 2 wide, and we're not really that far out again from pit stops here, Jake. Pit stops that last time by happened around lap 43, so we're still about 20 to go. We're only 20 laps into this run, but I mean, you're starting near the point where you start thinking, how am I going to get myself in a position to pit? And I think because of that, I don't think it'll happen. Oh, it's the 4! Gets really loose. The 4's up in the wall. How is it not a huge incident? How is it not a crash? No, it will be. William Tony's in the wall. Another couple trucks in the wall. Only 1 to 2 trucks really involved in this. We stay green, Jake. How?
How are we still green? Snelson is spinning on the backstretch. No caution. He's going to hit the inside wall hard. That's going to be the end of that truck's day as well. And somehow they have all managed to save it. Townsend was involved. Chris Britt was involved. There's no caution has come out. That should have been a caution for sure. That's a weird one right there.
Important to note that Snelson was down below the yellow line off the racing surface. But I mean, a spin like that in the middle of the field, I mean, not just a caution. Normally at Talladega, that's the trigger for the big one. Normally at Daytona, it's the trigger for the big one. How did they just dodge him like that to not have that? That was a great save by all of those guys.
Yeah, awesome save.
Except
not
Snelson.
made that anymore. So Snelson and Tony, they were all sort of trying to figure out where they were. They got into each other, into that high line, and Snelson just couldn't save the truck and spun with all that damage. Obviously bent the truck up a little bit more than what he expected and put it on the inside. But for all those trucks to save it, and somehow no caution, they did an awesome job there. Now there is some trucks that have got some damage that obviously didn't beforehand. It's now going to drop them a little bit further out than what they wanted, but it's sort of calmed this front pack down now. Everyone is single file, no one's trying to push the issue anymore. A lot of trucks now are on an alternate strategy as well, so they will follow laps down because of their incident. And it may just make this one a little bit less or make it a little bit interesting in the way of if a caution was to come out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I mean, a lot of your field really strung out because of that, and I think these guys should, I mean, especially with the pit stops going to be happening soon, they should be calming down, but, I mean, the 85 just goes to the high line again, so maybe we don't know what we're talking about, but I think Al Senna is going to be really strong if he can keep this truck running to the end of the race, because the thing with Al Senna and the way that he's running is he is very liable to be potentially caught up in an incident, just as aggressive as he's being. But the fact that he's so willing to really race with everyone, the fact that he's testing out the ultra high line, he's testing out the middle line, he's testing everything, if he puts himself in a strong position coming to the checkered flag, he will be able, I think he will have a little bit of an edge over everyone else who's kind of just held station down on the inside.
Yeah, he needs to get that truck back up there and be able to get it done. He's had a good truck. As soon as he got there, he was able to start challenging these guys for the front as Franco Muglia actually goes and dips those 2 inside tyres below the yellow line. Didn't pass anyone, so it's all good and fair game there. These two, though, on the high side that have started to work together, which is no surprise, is Bobby Stewart and Brad Neer up on that high line, going to see what they have for the inside line of Jameson and Lemons.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Neer and Bobby Stewart is, like you said, is they're going to put a truck a lap down by the sound of it. That's the 42 of Brad Patterson going down another lap. That's going to be his 5th lap down, which disaster for him after qualifying in 4th place. But with Neer and Stewart, they haven't been overly aggressive here with everybody. I mean, when everyone was bobbing and weaving and jockeying for position as hard as they could, they were just kind of rolling. And because of that, everyone else, they're going to be, the heart rate's going to be coming down. That adrenaline rush is going to be coming down. For Stewart and Neer, this is where they just say, you know what? This is our chance to just go to work and just work ourselves back up towards the front and pick up positions as everyone else calms down. Let's pick up the intensity.
Yeah, that's what they're doing right now. They're picking it up for themselves. They've also lost Doyle Lawrence and Travis Termeyer. Termeyer was a lap down initially, but he was still among the pack, and he got caught up in that one. So Doyle Lawrence, there's only 3 whip racing trucks out now. James Torrey is working with Ryan Campbell, trying to get him up to the front. But Brad Neer is clear of Doug Lemons, technically, but he's going to wait for his teammate to be clear as well. So they're not going to drop down. They're going to still float there and wait. We've got to remember, Bobby Stewart already has a win. Brad Neer doesn't. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try and work together and get Brad Neer or James Torrey behind them in that 4th truck on that high line, that win. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they play this one.
Something important to take note of, we do have some people on your pit lane that don't really have a bunch of damage at the moment. Number 7 of Burt Wilson came down and hit the pit lane, as well as a couple others. So maybe people getting themselves to a fuel window number as Brad Neer continuing to offer the high line, and Doug Lemons going to continue to lead the way on that inside line. Ryan Campbell up there on the high line, as well as the 2 of James Torrey. So we're already starting to see it again, Jake. The Whip Racing trucks, there's what few is left of them. Important to note that Lemons is still in the race. He's not out of it. He just had to check up a lot when that big incident nearly happened, and because of that, he's just lost basically the rest of the pack. He's 7 seconds down, and you know, maybe if he has an extraordinary run coming onto or off of pit road, he can make that time up. We've seen people struggle coming off and on in pit road before, so maybe he can get there. Brad Neer still well clear, doesn't go to the inside line. Whip Racing playing fuel games again as we're about 10 laps out from these guys when they need to pit, but I think the window is starting to open up right about now.
Yeah, lap 70, the window open after, if you look at the first caution, or first run, they were able to make 43 odd laps from lap 70 to 113. That's 43 odd laps. So that is where the window is open from here on out. So that's why Bert Wilson came down pit road, and you've seen him come and get his 4 fresh tires and fuel for the rest of this run. So wouldn't be surprised if a couple of these other trucks start to work it from here to that 80 lap mark. So this is that 10-15 lap window where some of these guys will be coming down pit road, and the top line has sort of stalled out this time when they were lapping those 2 trucks. But Brad Neer and Bobby Stewart, are going to try and see what they can do.
Yeah, they're still pushing hard up on this outside line, but still Neer choosing that high line. And I think this is smart by them because we know they like to run late, and we know they like to run deep. Just keep yourselves formed up, and anyone behind you who suddenly wants to get to the front, what are they going to do? I mean, if Ryan Campbell can't just run around Bobby Stewart and Brad Neer all by himself, because the moment he goes to that high line, James Torrey would just draft up on Bobby Stewart, and suddenly you just have a 3-truck Whip Racing line up there until eventually Ryan Campbell just fell back down with a 4-truck in line on the high line. So I think that Whip Racing, they're doing exactly what they need to do here. Ryan Campbell, I think, needs to find a way to the inside so he can pit with his teammate at Doug Lemons.
Yeah, he needs to drop down so he's not stuck in this Whip Racing high line, because obviously they're going to run long, or as long as they can. They ran 1 extra lap longer than everyone else out there, so they will be able to run an extra 2 laps longer than anyone else out there, if that's correct. Yes, it is, should be. So yeah, they will be able to run a couple of laps longer than everyone else. So Campbell needs to get out of there, that little bubble, because he could get run over quite severely by James Torrey if they don't communicate well between teams here, and that could ultimately hurt the fire truck. But once again, Brad Neer out in front. He got the lap led. He hasn't dropped down. I think he thought about it then, but he doesn't. To drop down, he's going to wait for Bobby Stewart to maybe drop down, or they're just going to sit up there and play the high line.
Yeah, just playing the high line is Brad Neer and Bobby Stewart as they continue to work themselves down your back straightaway. And what a race this has been, Jake. I mean, Raven Grafixx, they lucked out with this one. They're getting their money's worth after getting their name on this Talladega race. 74 laps were currently in the books right now. Every single one clean and green. 1 or 2 little incidents, but for the most part, this has been, I think, the best race of the season thus far.
Yeah, the amount of action that this has put on has been absolutely amazing. There's been some good races through this season, don't get us wrong. Darlington was awesome, that finish there. Pocono, once again, was a really good race. So it's a couple of races here and there, and this is what this series is able to produce, some good, hard, clean racing. Last week, obviously, was a little bit of a one that was left of field from that, but that's what short track spring. We'll be going to Bristol soon, so expect something similar there unless these guys clean it up. But yeah, this race will be awesome today. This has been absolutely amazing for 75 laps. We've still got another odd 40 odd laps to go, so anything can happen here, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same next week.
At 38 to go here at Talladega as Whip Racing continue to just play the strategy with the high line, as people are going to very, very quickly start thinking about how to get down onto that pit road. Last time around, Doug Lemons, he came in on lap 43, so we're expecting these guys in at the latest by 86. Whip Racing, they went, I believe, 1 to 2 laps later. They came in actually lap 44, so the next time by, at the latest they could run, which we know they like to do, that's going to be lap 88. And here's the thing, Jake, coming to this final stop, here at a super speedway like this, normally I know in well, basically all the NASCAR styled cars, your Xfinity car, and as well as the Cup cars, actually Brad Neer finally does go down to that inside line. Interesting decision after waiting for so long. But normally I think tires are the limiting factor on the pit stop. Do you take right sides only here?
I think someone's going to try it. I wouldn't be surprised if you see someone miles out in front after this pit stop cycle. As Doug Lemons is going to leave the 76 for dry on that inside line, and he's going to try and go to the high side where with a teammate of Bobby Stewart, well, not teammate, the teammate of Brad Neer, of Bobby Stewart up on that high side. So Lemons is just going to lead that whip racing truck down there on the low line and see what they can do there. We've got Jameson in behind and Sislov. But yeah, back to that point, Randy. I think that, yeah, maybe see a couple of those trucks try a two-tire strategy. It wouldn't surprise me. We haven't seen a caution yet. So if a caution was to come out, it's going to come out in the later stages right now. Wow, that was aggressive from Doug Lemons. That was going to be the caution right there nearly, but they managed to save it. Campbell is right up near that fence. He's going to bring it back down, but that was a very aggressive move from Lemons to take that point away.
Yeah, it really was, and Neer had to get out of the throttle a bit, and you saw he had to swerve up. Bobby Stewart had to swerve the entirety of the outside line, had to swerve up, and they checked up harder than Jake's Australian packet loss. They worked themselves into corners number 1 and 2, and on the inside line, Doug Lemons maintains that position. But I think most importantly, look at that high line, Jake. Brad Neer, Bobby Stewart, James Torrey, Whip Racing already working strong here on the outside. They got what they wanted, all of themselves 1, 2, 3 for when these pit stop cycles happen.
Yeah, somehow they were able to get together and make it 1, 2, 3 in that high line. I don't even know how that happened. All that was going on, and somehow they're just like, we're all here, and they've joined all up together, and off they go on that high side. So, good job from them to be able to get their teammates all working together. Doug Lemons is still on that inside with Jameson. We got the 4-truck, Chris Britt, the pole sitter, the winner of the Bring It Challenge for pole position award of the $25 from Raven Graphics is now going to have to float all the way back through this pack. He's got a lot of damage on that 4-truck. Unfortunate incident for him after what was such a strong qualifying for the 4-truck.
Definitely unfortunate to have an incident like that take you out of it, but someone's got to be the unlucky one, and sometimes it chooses you as they work themselves into corner number 3 for the 79th time, all under green thus far, and Doug Lemons continuing to hold on to that inside line. I honestly think at this point, Jake, there's no way Whip Racing, I think, fights with Doug Lemons. You know that everyone else is going to pit earlier than you, and as I say that, people coming down pit road, actually Doc Stout was blowing an engine, I think probably downshifting, so that's going to be dreadful news for him. Alcena's in the pit road, Frank Ramuglia, so one person out on a little mistake, and was this damage, or did he just, was that a missed downshift as he came on a pit road?
I'm thinking that was a missed downshift coming onto pit road. I'm just going to have a listen here, see what it was. I'm thinking it was. It's really
it happened
weird.
Right when he was on the brakes. Right when you would be doing that 4th to 3rd downshift is roughly when the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, it peak revved hard there. That, yeah. The RPM, like Hugo just said, it went to the moon and it was never coming back. So, there's some rods and pistons out there on the track. Surprised we have no caution. But the rest of the field is going to come by right now and flow back out as Frank Ramuglia and Alcena come back out.
That's a pit stop starting to cycle through, and because of that, your lead pack dips to under about 8 cars deep. I think there's about 7 of them out there running. As Brad Neer actually dips himself down to that inside line, and this is kind of interesting to me. We've seen him do this once, and it kind of shook the field up when Doug Lemons decided to be aggressive and move to the high line a little bit. Didn't quite work out, but Bobby Stewart's going to actually, I think I know what Brad's doing. I think Brad's going to try to hold that inside line up so that the likes of Bobby and the likes of James can get down in front of him. But as I say that, look at the run Brad gets to 3 and 4.
Yeah, Brad, I think he had a good idea there, but if these guys behind him come down, they're going to freight train him anyway, as they do. So that's Lemons and the rest of that inside line, Glenn Jameson, Jason Sideslove, Ryan Campbell. They're all coming down this time round, and that's going to let Neer drop in behind the field. And I think Wilson's going to come in and ruin their party in the 7-truck. He is a lap down, however, running in 11th at the moment. So the 3 trucks that have stayed out longest, staying out again, the Whip Racing trucks.
Absolutely right. 4 trucks still all out there running. And when are they going to come down the pit lane? Will it be this time by, next time by? When will it actually happen? We saw their first pit stop on lap 44, so they could conceivably go to lap 48. And Jake, that extra 9-10 laps or so, I mean, that can be a big difference. I think at this point, they just need to accept the fact that Bert's there, just work with him. You know, because you don't want to lose yourself time on this strategy by fighting with him. Just help him out, help him help you here. And really, you know, with that fuel, with the lighter fuel load, shorter fuel load, he'll have a slightly shorter final stop, as Doyle Lawrence actually going to be hitting the pit road. So you'll have a shorter final stop, and your truck will be lighter for longer than everyone else's.
Yeah, I think that's what they're playing for, and that's what they need to have in that last stint. You want to have as any advantage that you can get on a super speedway. They may even put some more tape on it. Weather is still cool. It's only 75-degree ambient. It's actually dropped down to 74 degrees Fahrenheit ambient right now. It's still overcast, so you could maybe put a little bit more tape on in this final stint, depending on how much they've been running for the rest of the race. That's a little thing that they could do, but we'll see what these guys do this time round. Coming off of 4, we'll see whether they drop down, and all 3 racing trucks drop down. They spread out so they don't hit each other this time onto pit road, and that'll be the rest of our green flag guys done.
Going to be kind of interesting here. James Torrey with a pretty good pit entry, Brad Neer as well, but Torrey and Neer are side by side on the pit lane. I think one of these guys should just take the, take the hit, unless, they know where they are in terms of pit stalls. Actually, I mean, it worked out perfect. Torrey was the first pit stall, then Neer, then Bobby Stewart, and Bobby missed his pit box, and that's going to be big because that's going to take this group of 3 trucks, put it down to 2, and forget right sides, Jake. They took left sides only. It actually, didn't hurt Bobby that much. Where is the pack?
Wow, they all took 2 tires. That's an interesting strategy call right there, and the pack is nowhere. Because they took 2 tires, they have really put themselves in a good position. The pack is only just coming through the tri-oval now. So I think that was a really good strategy call by those guys to put those 2 tires on, because I think they've got a good advantage right now.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, also, the pack is somewhat broken up. It's very different from what we saw in the first round of stops. First round of stops, the pack basically stuck together very well. You had the entire field still basically match each other on pit road. Here, very different story. The pack has gone a little bit more broken up. Right now, it's right around Frank Gramuglia. You have Jason Sizlov, Alcena, Campbell, Lemons, Jameson. That's really your lead pack at the moment, with Torrey, Stewart, and Neer still all in it. And if you look, those 3 coming off of corner number 4 into your tri-oval, your pack just now exiting corner number 4, so they have themselves a pretty big advantage. And I think 3 trucks, Jake, I think they might just be fast enough, especially with that 4th truck in line of Brad Patterson. I believe he's gotten some repairs. Actually, no, not quite, but being at the tail end of the line, he won't be slowing them up. I think 3 trucks can be just faster enough than the rest of the pack working together. They may have just gotten themselves a win, whether it's Brad Neer or Torrey or Stewart. I think they just made the strategy call to win this race.
Yeah, that's the strategy call of the race right there. That is what has pretty much, I think...
Not if Brad goes in on the apron into 3.
Oh, that was scary. But yeah, I was just having a look back. There's only 6 trucks in this pack. They're double file for the entire pack, so that's technically 3 trucks in both lines, so they're not going to gain as much time as these trucks out in front who are 3 by themselves. They're not having to watch trucks on the high side. They can just run their own race, and now they've got Brad Patterson in behind them. That's another truck that's going to help them get a little bit more speed in this draft. So we'll see. They're 6.5 seconds in front last time round. The gap this time is 5.3. Obviously that's coming down because they're just getting up to speed. The next time we should be able to have a clear indication of what the speed difference is for these trucks, and if it stays like this, I think that's really put Whip Racing in a good position to take this one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Currently working lap 86 of 113. So inside of 30 races to go here as they work themselves into corners number 3 and 4. Brad Neer still in command of the field, and this is what we want to see. These Whip Racing trucks for the first time we'll see fully spooled up, or we'll be able to compare the lap times to that pack we see a little bit. And I think the gaps actually come down, so maybe the speed quite isn't there. And you look at the way they fan out, that's not going to be helping them, as they work themselves across the line. A 49.4. What is the rest of the pack doing? 48.9s as they come across the stripe. What was this? 49.1 as Gramuglia almost goes onto the apron. So a couple 2 to 3 tenths is this Whip Racing pack. They're losing that every single time, and it's going to be really close, Jake. If they can maintain 2 to 3 tenths, I think the gap that the rest of that field might just get to them, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, the field may just get to them. I may have to run some calculations off air and see what we can do. As Jason Sizlove nearly got turned off the front nose of the 63 of Glenn Jameson. They have managed to sort themselves out. It broke up this big pack though, and that's going to lose them some time again to the leading group of the Whip Racing truck. So we got Campbell, Lemon, Sizlove, Jameson, Senna, and Gramuglia. That's their 6-car train that is going to try and chase down those Whip Racing trucks now, and they did a 49.4 last time round. They were about on par, so that's what they not needed right there.
Yeah, but that's exactly what Whip Racing needed. That time by, they did 49.5. So again, a tenth goes to the likes of Campbell, Lemon, Sizlove, Jamison. But you're not going to get there at a tenth of a second per lap. I mean, it's a 5-second gap right now. Tenth of a second. I mean, guess what? Mathematics tells me that's only a second every 10 laps. And you're inside of 25 laps to go at this point. 25 to go at the line. You have to be making up, I think, if you're the likes of Campbell, Lemon, Sizlove, Jamison, you have to be making up more in the realm, I think, really, to get there comfortably. 8 tenths per lap, 7 tenths per lap. They're just not doing it.
Yeah, well, what they need to do is a quick calculation right there. If they gain 2 tenths a lap, it'll take them 25 laps to catch the pack. So that's from 5-second gap, which they had coming into this lap. They needed to gain 2 tenths a lap to be able to get it done. They just gained 3 tenths that time by. That's what they needed. That puts them a little bit safer. It's now 4.6 seconds, but if that's right, they're going to catch them with about 5 laps to go, around 10 to go in that window. And if that's what happens, it's going to be chaotic for that final 10 laps.
Bobby Stewart goes up to the high line. Not sure what's happening here. James Torrey goes second in row, and Bobby Stewart going to drop back into third. My initial thought would be overheating, but if that were the case, Jake, you would have seen Brad Neer drop back off and fall to the top and give Bobby clean air. I mean, being in third, you're gonna have even less clean air, less air to cool that engine down as they come around. This time it's 49.6, 49.7, 49.8 for your leaders. Guys behind, they picked up about half a second. They're starting to come, and they're starting to come fast.
Yeah, now they're going to catch them quite easily within 15 laps right now. And I think that was the thing that those two were doing out in front of Bobby Stewart, was to drop back in behind them to give these two a better advantage. You've got to remember, Bobby Stewart's already had a win today, win in this season, so he doesn't need that victory to lock himself in the chase. Brad Neer and James Torrey do, so expect those two. That could have been the reason why Bobby Stewart dropped in behind, because if they are able to keep this lead, they need those two in front of Bobby Stewart.
That's very true. They need those guys to have all the points they can get. And actually, let's take a look as the races sort of kind of calm down. It's going to be a little bit of a slow burner to the end, waiting for that second pack to reach the front unless we get a yellow. Let's look at people who are in your chase. James Torrey in second. He's currently he's ninth in points right now, so this would be a great race for him. How did he qualify? He qualified 11th, so not the greatest qualifying, but if he can finish up here amongst your top 3, great points result from him. Other people, William Tony, not really having a great run. He's going to be put even further on the back foot, I think, for the rest of the championship. What about the likes of Chris Britt? We know he's had trouble. A lot of people that are near that bubble, Jake, really kind of struggle. I mean, Travis Turnmeyer, for example, looking like he had a chance for a very big run tonight, chance to really make up some points, especially because he would have been on the same strategy as these guys. Unfortunately, that one little incident saw him get turned around, and that's essentially, that's a lot of points that someone like him couldn't afford to hemorrhage.
Yeah, that's what he needed to do. He needed to stay with these guys, and that's what he would have done. The WIT racing trucks would have been together, and right now, these WIT racing trucks have just picked it up another notch. They are equaling the times that these guys are behind doing, and if that's the case, I don't think these guys are going to catch them at the moment. It's only dropped maybe half a tenth in the last 2 laps alone. Half a tenth is not what they need. They need a couple of tenths to be able to make this thing work. We're winding down the laps, and every time they wind down the laps, and these 3 WIT racing trucks in front are able to run this pace, it's going to burn these guys behind, and it could
Bobby
be
going out pit road. Bobby underfilled. That's the only thing that it could be. Bobby must have underfilled. We saw Bobby miss his pit stall. I think Bobby gambled when he missed. Probably took a click out of his fuel options, trying to be able to keep with his teammates. That might be a nail in the coffin for WIT Racing. 3 trucks are strong, Jake. I don't think 2 are nearly as much. And Bobby Stewart will be kicking himself if he comes in and a yellow comes out soon. But he's sitting on the pit lane for a while. How much did he underfill?
Wow, that must have been a lot underfilled there, because he is only just leaving pit road now. So, big mistake there from Bobby Stewart. And another little mistake. He rolled through his pit box. He obviously just in the kerfuffle of rolling through the pit box asked for an audible and turned the fuel out and took some more fuel out. Or may have taken a can out of that one, because that was a long time on pit road, and he's come down, got that all back in, and it's altered. Yeah, these guys are not on pace now, so expect these guys to get freight trained quite hard by Ryan Campbell when they get there.
It's possible that what he did the moment he missed his pit box, because he's already locked into the chase with a race win. He probably just underfilled so he could at least stay with his teammates out here for as long as possible and get them as strong as possible, as big of a gap as possible, and hold it. So, because, I mean, it still is a 3-second gap, but like you said, that pack behind doing 48.8s, 48.9s, 49 flats, Tori and Near last time by, those were 50s, and when that pack comes up on them hard like they're going to here shortly, they're just going to go to the outside, and Near and Tori will just drop down to the end of that pack. They'll be running 8th, 9th, 10th as opposed to 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, I don't know what the whole idea with that. It's an interesting one. I think it's really burnt Wit Racing, though, a little. I don't know, a little miscalculation there, I'd say, that's ultimately put these guys on the back foot now, because they had a comfortable lead, and I think Stewart could have easily been able to run with them. I don't think he would have had that little of fuel, depending on how much he put in, but these guys are going to catch him. Ryan Campbell, Al Senna, Frank Buglia, Jason Sizlove, Glenn Jameson, and look who is just sitting there. One of the guys that has won already this season, Doug Lemons, he wants to take another one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Lemons won at the first big super speedway at Daytona, and I'm sure he wants to get the second one here. They start approaching on the likes of Tori and Near very quickly. And Jake, should Tori maybe hop up to the outside and block it, or should he just stay to the low line, make those guys work the ultra high lane maybe? But no, they're going to stay single file. It looks like the pack going to go through on the high line relatively calmly. And where will they cycle in? Brad Near and James Tori, because as the pack comes through, they're going to quickly pick up the draft here. And the 5 gets by. That's Ryan Campbell. Who's next? That's going to be Jason Sizlove on the high line. He's someone else who needs a good run, but the 76 and the 2, I think they're going to stabilize themselves very well as second in line.
Yeah, that was a good job. Good decision to say single file on the inside line. Make the rest of the pack work around you. That's what they did, and they were able to keep up in that front position. They've only lost the one spot. That's for Ryan Campbell. They've lost all that ground that they had, but now they're not at the back of this pack. They've got Jason Sizlove and Jameson working that outside line. Ryan Campbell right in front of them. They should be able to work with this from here on out.
Absolutely right. Sizlove working the high line. Another person who I'm sure wants a strong finish tonight just for the points. He's currently in 11th place. And then remember, it's 12 that get into your KPD chase here towards the second half of this championship. So because of that, Sizlove needs this points finish. And how many people do you think, Jake, in this group, how many people do you think might just opt to go for the strong points finish as opposed to going for the win just because they need it? They don't want that risk of finishing way down the order and throwing away more and more points.
Well, Lemons and Campbell, you can forget, they've already had their win, so they will just be floating around, I think, and not really. They'll obviously want to win the race if they're in a position like Ryan Campbell is now, who's just about to get freight trained on the high side by Brad Near and James Tori. So if those two are out there, I'd say they won't be trying to challenge as hard. They may just take a solid point stake. In comparison, though, the rest of the field, I think they're just going to work as hard as they can, do everything they can. They need that win, especially Sizlove. He is on that bubble. He isn't like in the field yet. He's only 3 points out of that bubble, so I think he's one of those guys that would definitely try and work it. Same with Glenn Jameson. He's on the outside looking in, so he could definitely need that win to put him in that chase.
Of course, your whip racing machines, James Tori, Brad Near, they don't have wins yet, but they're doing a little bit better in the points. So because of that, you might see them be a little bit more conservative with this. Brad Near runs 6th in points with James Tori running 9th. So, but still, I mean, if you're James Tori, 9th place, not really where you want to be, especially if you have a bad second half of the championship up the run into the chase. But as I say that, look at whip racing here, Jake. They went from commanding the inside line, they now command both lines.
Yeah, somehow they managed to pull that one off and then got it working. So if they can keep it like this for the rest of the race, which I think they can dominate it from here on out. There's not many laps to go. They're working around 14 laps to go now. They can just work it like this. It'll put either Tori or Near in the winner's circle. Either one of them, first and second, that'll be a strong point stay for them. And that's what they needed to do. Both of them don't have a win, but if they can get strong points, one of them gets a win, then they only need to get the other one in afterwards in another round later on. So this is a good position for them and a good strategy call all around for them.
There remains an X factor, though, Jake. If you go to the very end of this train, you see at the end of the line the number 85 of Al Senna. Al is the one who, if anyone's going to hop up to the high line and start the train, it's going to be him. But we've seen people as actually James Tori goes to the inside and picks up the lead, and I don't know if I agree with this. I think they would have been better off just maintaining having the lead of both lanes, because then you guarantee yourself first and second place on a restart if a late race yellow were to come out, and you're able to force people to go to the ultra high line to get around you, and you can be really aggressive with the blocking in order to hold on to it. But I'm sure Tori and the likes know better than me. They're approaching 13 to go, but I think Al sent us to watch, and I think at this point, we saw in the early stages, a lot of people really didn't want to run with him. It almost looked like they were just leaving him out to dry. I think if you're back there and you see Al Senna go high, you have to almost go with him.
Oh yeah, if I seen that 85 truck move to that high line after what he was doing earlier, I'd be following him through. He's got that pace in that truck, and you can do something about it and try and get to that pointy end of this race. And one person I'd just seen that's joined this pack is Bobby Stewart. He came down pit road, got that fuel done, but now he's on the back of this pack. He's got his two teammates on that low line. If he can get to them, he can ultimately help these two to be able to get something done, and they're going to have to work around some lap traffic right now. That's Brett Keith and Damien Plymouth who are going to stay to the inside, and these trucks are going to have to try and figure themselves out right here. This could be the caution unless they all single file out. They're going to go 3 wide past these two, Frank Muglia, and I think that's Ryan Campbell squeezing each other going through turn 3, but they managed to sort themselves out.
Very well done by them, and that's the first time we've seen the pack go around lap traffic on the high line. Normally the lap traffic gets relegated to the outside, excuse me. This time everyone going through on the outside. An interesting thing to note here, talking about teammates, we've been talking about Whip racing on the inside. Look to the outside. You have Sizlove and Lemons there, so you have teammates working there as well. Still, it's going to be interesting to see how Bobby Stewart ends up working into this mix.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how that works out. Yeah, so we've got the two teammates from Glove Box.
Actually, Campbell's third in line on the inside, so if he can find a way up, suddenly that's 3 Glove Box cars up top.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that as well. We've got Campbell on that inside, who is that Glove Box racing driver, and he could easily pull up. Obviously, you've got Al Senna and Franklin Muglia. They're from Old Fart Sim Racing, so they're going to work together. They're third and fourth in line on that I side. And obviously, Glenn Jameson is the stone all by himself in that 63 for Evolution Motorsports. He doesn't have any of his teammates up there with Brad Patterson and Bert Wilson. So we'll see what happens as they're going to fan 3 wide out. The Whip Racing trucks on that high side, and that's going to burn them, and they're going to drop all the way to the back of this pack.
Not sure what that was about. We saw Brad Neer, he was working that middle lane, and then James came up. I don't know if James maybe clipped the apron, got loose, and it was forced to come up or something, but they went to that old, maybe they're trying to pick up Bobby here. Where is Bobby in relation to that? And that's exactly what they've done. They've picked up Bobby Stewart, so they've risked it. They've given up the track position now, but they want to have 3 trucks all line astern, and they go to the checkered flag. It's on the high line. You see it, Al Senna as well as Frank Ramuglia working the high line, and Doug Lemons gets hung out to dry in the middle. Ryan Campbell working the inside with his teammate Jason Sizlove. It was Lemons and Sizlove on the outside, just a few laps to go. Who's that? Jameson on the apron. They keep it green. He keeps it pointed the right way. I think Whip Racing, even though they're at the back of the pack now, they have made the decision to where I think with 3 of them, they should be able to work themselves through if they keep racing like this.
Wow, the save from Jameson in that trial. Well, he was sideways and somehow he managed to save it. But yeah, the Whip Racing trucks risked it to get Bobby Stewart. They're going to risk it to get the biscuit now. They're going to try and work their way through this field. Frank Muglia and Al Senna now working that higher line in front of Sizlove and Ryan Campbell with Lemons in behind them. They're all just really taking the risk now, and Glenn Jameson is going to mess up that little bit of a Whip Racing party at the back. He's going to thread the needle and put him in the third in line, and these guys have really dropped off a little bit from the pack. They'll definitely close back up now, and look at the run that Tori's going to get. Are they going to make it 3 wide? They are coming across the stripe, so it's going to be a 3 wide battle for this lead.
3 wide going into the front. Whip Racing on the top, scattering amongst other teams, basically down low as Frank Ramuglia trying to work the middle on Jason Sizlove down low, and Sizlove isn't going to give it up easy. We know that. He needs the points badly. He needs to have that win to get himself walked in the chase, but a lot of other people would love that as well. Frank Ramuglia needs a win. The 85 of Al Senna needs a win. Tori and Neer, they need wins. The 63 needs a win. There's only a couple trucks in this pack that are locked in as they put the 4 another lap down. And Bobby Stewart continues to lurk back there near his teammates. He's a lap down, but I think he might be the X factor here. He might be the one who decides who wins and who doesn't win this race. As they put lap number 105 in the book, start 106, 7 laps to go.
Yeah, this is starting to work it down to the wire, and Bobby Stewart's definitely going to be that extra. He's going to be that talking point of this one. You look to that inside, they're all glove box racing. You look to that middle line, that's the old fart sim racing of Senna and Frank Lamuglia, and then you look to the high side, and it's the whip racing truck. So it's a team battle here with Glenn Jameson just sitting there behind him in his Evolution Motorsports truck, trying to figure out which line he's going to work with. He's on the inside right now, and Lamuglia and Senna go to squeeze the inside line of those glove box racing trucks, and right now look at those whip racing trucks with Bobby Stewart. They're coming on that high side, and they're going to be coming like a freight train.
The thing to note here, Jake, is we've seen it all race long. The high line has been strong coming off the corners, and here at Talladega rather than Daytona, you can carry so much more momentum, and you can carry momentum as you go down into that start-finish line. And look at the way they would have finished if it had been that time by. Gap from first to third, 3/100ths of a second, 6,000 separated first to second, as Sizlov is going to lead that one. Gramugli in the middle, not quite close enough. Lap 107 currently getting logged in now as we're quickly reaching 5 to go.
Quickly getting to the end of this one, and this one's going to be a photo finish if they stay like this. The teams I don't think are going to change. I think they're in their lines to the finish now, and they're just going to have to work with what they've got. That high line for wet racing is going to be a difficult one for them to pull off, but they've got 3 trucks in there compared to 2 in that middle of Frank Lamuglia and our center. They're going to make it 4 wide down the back stretch, down the front stretch, sorry, going into the tri-oval. Somehow they made that work. They're all going to stay green flag. We're going to enter lap 108.
There's another lap truck of Aaron Ames going through corners number 1 and 2, and Aaron is way off the pace. I think something's happened to him. Did he maybe hit the wall? Hopefully he sees these guys coming, though, in the back 3 wide. I think he needs to get to the apron and needs to get there quickly. 30-mile-per-hour speed difference, or is Whip Racing going to let him get back in line? They're going to have a little bit of time to do so and work themselves back to the front if they so try to. No, they're going to try to force the issue, it looks like. Aaron Ames has to keep it up against the wall. No, he's going to come down a little bit, and things are about to get really tight. James Torrey gets into the back of him. That's going to be race over for James Torrey. Glenn Jameson goes around. Well, will this be the first yellow? No, they stay clean and green again. Even amongst contact, even amongst people almost spinning and clipping the apron. Whip Racing taken completely out of the fold here as Jason Sizlov is going to lead this lap. The 13 still holding on in the middle. Glove box versus Old Farts as they go into 1 with 5 to go.
Somehow Jameson saved that. He was sideways coming off the 4. He did a Kyle Busch, just wring the neck out of it, and was able to keep the truck going. And that has ultimately hurt James Torrey's run. He was absolutely drilled the back of that lap truck coming down that front straight, and he has lost a lot of time now to the rest of this pack, and he had nowhere to go. But look at Bobby Stewart, because he was there, he's able to help Brad Neer get to the front, and these two are going to work the high side around the outside of Glamuglia and Senna. Senna's going to try and force them up right up against the fence. This is going to be chaotic coming down to the finish, but because of the 2 trucks, I think they've got a better run right now, and this could put Brad Neer at the point. We'll see when they cross the start-finish line. No, it was Frank Lamuglia actually was the one that led that lap, but it's definitely put them in a good position. Look at these 2 trucks. They've missed the whole inside line. It's just gone to nothing, and they have dropped all the way back, those glove box racing trucks, and now it's an old fart sim racing and whip racing battle up front.
They have for now, but Glove Box will want the win too, and Glove Box isn't going to want to just see here. Look at the run, Doug Lemons gets on the inside, goes to the end. There it is. Oh, there's the big crash we've been waiting for. The 76 hard into the wall. That was the points he needed. Sizlov goes around, but he doesn't hit anything hard. No, he gets into the wall on corners number 3 and 4, and I just believe that's going to bring out the finish here. What caused this one, Jake?
Oh, that was a crazy run on that back stretch. I think it was Lemons that moved to the inside, and no one actually knew what they were doing there, and it just, they all bottlenecked. They were all trying to squeeze each other on the high side and the low line. I think it was, Bobby Stewart.
It was Sizlov and Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby Stewart got into Sizlov, who then got into Brad Neer, who got into our center, and then it was just chaos from there on out. And Brad Neer hard lick to that outside fence right there. Coming down into turn 4, he had a hard lick, went straight, turned hard right into that fence. Ryan Campbell, I think, was very lucky not to get anything amongst that one. But that's our first caution right at the end of this one. And look who is up the front. Frank Lamuglia is out in front at the moment. But yeah, that was a crazy race right there. And Ryan Campbell, lucky to avoid that one there.
Yeah, he really was very lucky for Campbell. And you know, that incident, the the issue was the actual contact with Sizlove and Stewart, but I have to say, Sizlove, I think, moved because he saw that 70 down there on the inside, and he moved up just as Stewart kind of just moved a little bit to the inside. They both kind of moved into each other, but I have to say, I think the entire reason anybody moved was because Lemons was down there, and at the point of contact, Lemons was completely beneath the yellow line. And that's a little bit naughty, I have to say, for Lemons. He has aggressive running here towards the end, but at the end of the day, you have to keep it above that yellow line here to be able to make passes. But definitely unfortunate here that we're going to be a little anticlimactic, get the finish of this race under yellow, because there's no way we're going to be going back to green here. So let's go down your post-race results here just a little bit, because unless someone blows up, I think chances are they'll be finishing as they run. Frank Gramuglia, what a run it's been for him. Bit of a troublesome season for him, not really running very strong. He's just sort of been mid-packer to further back, but he gets himself a win at Talladega, locks himself into the chase. Al Senna, Jake, we need to talk about this. Al Senna, the person no one wanted to work with, from 22nd on the grid up to second place. He started dead last.
Yeah, Al Senna, that result right there is crazy. He had that truck, I think, to win in those later stages to be able to get that one down. Frank Gramuglia isn't even in. They're both not even inside the top 20 in points. Look where they are here, 1 and 2, and that's what Daytona can do. And yeah, back to that incident, like you were saying, I think, yeah, Doug Lemons just moving down to that inside maybe spooked the field, and that's all that caused it. Being a bit aggressive in the later stage, but that's what you need to do to win here, and he was going for it. He had nothing to lose, technically. He already had the 2 wins, seeing what he could do, but Frank Gramuglia with that win has put him in an awesome position for the rest of this championship with that locked into the chase. And then, pardon me, Al Senna as well. That result, that truck was fast all night. I think he definitely had the truck to win tonight. Unfortunately, going to come up 1 position short and not get that win. But Ryan Campbell, sitting there in 5th, he avoided that incident. He's been quiet. He started 15th. Obviously, he won at Mosport. He already had that win, but he's been pretty quiet like Lemons was for most of the night, and somehow finds himself at the pointy end.
Yeah, Campbell coming home with a strong 3rd place finish. Important to note, there is a truck in line. That's Bobby Stewart, who's scored a lap down, so he's not actually going to be involved with any of this at all, but he will be there when they cross the stripe. White and yellow currently in the air right now. Continuing to go down, James Torrey. And James Torrey, I think he'll be happy with this, Jake. He'll be happy with this finish, but at the same point, he could have had so much more, because he was running 9th, or coming into this in points, he was running in 9th, but going into the rest of the, for this race, he had a chance to win, chance for 2nd, chance for 3rd. He had a chance for some fantastic points coming out of this, and he's just, yeah, 5th is good, but I think he had a chance to win this thing. Yeah,
I think the any of the wet racing trucks, as well as Brad Neer, Torrey, and them, they had a really good shot at winning this race. That incident at the end, it's sort of the little incident with Torrey that he got caught up. I think it was Aaron Ames, I think it was in the 57, when he got caught up a couple of laps before. It's actually sort of saved him a bit and got him in a little bit of a position to get some more points out of this one. So it was a good job for that.
And talking about that incident with Torrey again, I have to say, it's important to note, whip racing, strong at Daytona, strong at Talladega, but both times that team get involved in incidents in the later stages that take it kind of out of it. I think that incident that we saw where with that lap truck where they forced the issue 4 wide, I think they would have been better off lifting out of it and just letting that truck go, because I mean that was still with plenty of time to go here. We've seen people go from the back of the pack to the front multiple times here in these super speedways. I think they could have. Going down the rest of your order quickly, Doyle Lawrence, good run from him. Wilson in 9th, William Toney in 10th, Stewart, Keith, Sizlove, Plymesser, and Turnmeyer. That's 10th through 15th, with Britt, Ames, Patterson, Snelson, Stout, Miller, and Townsend rounding out the rest of your field. But Frank Gramuglia, someone who's been having a bit of a down season, not been running very strong, comes out here at Talladega with his teammate of Al Senna. Both of them not being great on the cookie cutters, the 1.5 milers, and even on the short tracks they weren't looking particularly strong, but they got quite the super speedway package here on week 13, and they will come home 1-2 here in your Let's Roll 300, brought to you by Raven Graphics Designs. And Jake, what a run for them.
Yeah, well done to both of them. They had the trucks to beat in that later stages if Wit Racing couldn't get it sorted. And that's what happened. Alcena and Francomuglia 1-2. Francomuglia getting that P1. Going to lock himself in that chase with that win. And he struggled last week. He's been showing some signs of the truck being fast. I think it was Pocono, he had a good truck and then fell way to the back after an incident. So Gramuglia has had some pace. He's been able to show it. He's been playing some strategy calls to try and get some points. It just hasn't fallen his way. But today at Daytona, at Talladega, it has, and he's put himself in that #1 position. Now he gets to go and celebrate after what was an amazing race.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to be burning it down because, I mean, this isn't like someone like Ryan Campbell getting a win. This isn't someone like Brad Neer getting a win. Someone who's been in the fold basically every single race, had at least a decent chance of maybe coming away with a victory. This is someone who week in and week out tends to struggle, and he comes out today, and I honestly think Frank Gramuglia and Alcena played the draft here perfectly tonight. Every time there was a bit of a hanky move, you saw Alcena being aggressive, but Frank was actually ran pretty clean. We didn't really talk about him all race long. He was just sort of there. He wasn't taking part in any of the craziness, but Frank gets to get crazy now, Jake, and sometimes being calm when it's green means you can get crazy when it's checkered.
Yeah, pretty much in that position right now where he can get as crazy as you want, doing some donuts in that 13 truck on the front stretch, which is technically a little bit of a tri-oval right now. So well done to Gramuglia. It was an awesome drive from both of them to be able to come away with that 1-2 finish, and hopefully they can keep this up for the rest of the season now that they can have a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, hopefully the momentum will work in their favor. But we're going to step away for the first time tonight, and we're going to get the rest of your post-race show here for your Raven Grafixx Let's Roll 300 underway just shortly. So don't go away. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Back here on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive for your post-race show for your Raven Grafixx Contender Series, Raven Grafixx Let's Roll 300 from here at Talladega, which saw Frank Gramuglia come home with a strong win. But first, going to talk with one of the other drivers who was out there tonight. That was Mr. Doyle Lawrence out there in the 8, who qualified himself in second and come home with a strong 8th place finish tonight after some early troubles. And Doyle, I'm just going to call you Doyle at first because my producer's been yelling at me a little bit saying I've been mispronouncing your last name. Could you clear up the pronunciation for me as someone with an equally confusing last name?
Sure. It's Lowrance. It's just like it's pronounced just the way it's spelled. It's a lot of people say Lawrence, but it's not L-A-W, it's L-O-W, just like the depth finder, fish finder machine, Lowrance.
All right, well, I will definitely try to remember that, and I'm sure Jake won't because he's Australian and we all know what they're like. Kidding, of course. I always like to stir up the boys down under. But Doyle, let's talk about your race tonight. You qualified pretty well, and But unfortunately, you know, the race just didn't seem to quite go your way. It seemed like every step of the way there was something just didn't go your way. Either you ended up in the wrong lane at the wrong time, or I think it was a small incident on pit road that eventually took you out of it. How was your race from your perspective?
The race was okay. I mean, yeah, I mean that's the plate race tracks for you. You know, it's a coin toss sometimes. There in the early going, we just got stuck in the low side and couldn't make any headway. Then we switched to the outside lane, tried to make a little headroom there, and then mid race there was a couple trucks that got caught up on the high side, and I thought one of them was going to spin down into the low end, and I swerved and I hooked the apron, and then I lost the draft. Fortunately, I have to give kudos to Brent for picking me up. That was real cool of him, even though he was lapped down. So we kind of worked together, kind of. So that's just the way it goes sometimes. Yeah, pit road. Teammate was on the outside. I told him twice, that I was below him, but he turned down anyway. So unfortunate there, but that's the way it happens. I mean, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, that was Travis Turnmeyer you got into, and definitely unfortunate, especially with the way that you guys at Whip Racing were at yourself organized and oriented at the closing stages of this race. I mean, the three of the guys that were out front, they got out 1, 2, 3, and had a huge gap. I definitely think with you and Turnmeyer, I don't think there's any way the rest of the field catches that group of 5.
Yeah, a lot of testing on this track, and we did a lot of draft testing, and we did really good as a pack. If we had stayed together or been able to exit pit road together, there probably would be a different outcome. So, and hats off to Frank. Good win for him.
Yeah, definitely a good, strong running from Frank. I mean, I believe if memory serves me right, this is my first season really following the series. This is actually Frank's first win, so I'm sure he's going to be ecstatic about that when we go to his interview shortly. But Doyle, any shout-outs? Anyone you...
Yeah, first off, congrats to Frank for his first win. So awesome for him. Shout out to my teammates over at Whip Racing, Bobby and Brad, for putting together an awesome setup for Q and racing. I mean, the truck was rock solid. It was awesome. Had a great qualifying. Other than the race just didn't go too well for me. Shout outs to IFX, Innovative Fabworks, KPD, Killer Prototype and Design with Tony Woodside, Lone Star Riding Custom with James Torrey, iAnalyzerRacing.com is always a tongue twister. The GBR guys for helping out as well. And again, you guys for making this pretty awesome on the telecast.
We definitely appreciate it, Doyle. You guys put on one heck of a show. So before we let you go just yet, we're going to bring Frank up into the mix, and you can talk to the first-time winner of your title series here of Frank Gramuglia.
Right on. Hey, Frank, how you doing?
Hey.
How's that first-time win for you?
Oh, I'll tell you, this is just phenomenal. I'm still shaking from the race, covered in sweat. It was awesome. Had a blast.
Give us your perspective for the last couple laps there. I know it was a pretty good shootout there.
Well, it was definitely white knuckle, and just praying I wouldn't make a mistake and cause a big one. And my teammate Al was behind me, and thanks for him. He pushed me along there, and things worked out for us.
Well, congrats to you on your first win. I'm going to turn it back over to the RaceSpot guys.
All right,
Doyle. I got it.
Jake, I was going to throw it over to you.
I'm here on Victory Lane with Frank. Thank you, Doyle, for that. Obviously, our race sponsor from Raven Grafixx. Frank, what a drive that was. Getting that first win here and locking yourself into that chase at this point, that's an awesome feeling to be able to get that one done.
It's phenomenal, man. I can't even describe it right now. First lap, there was a little incident there where somebody kind of came down and the door wasn't quite open, and I thought we were going to have a wreck there. Thought we were going to take on damage, but everything worked out just fine. And it was a blast. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that little incident on lap 1, it could have been all over from the word go, and that would have been a dreadful way to start the night. And you were able to bounce back from that. This truck looks strong. You and our center look strong. Obviously, Al didn't put in a lap time for qualifying. You started at the back, but once you got up there and you were with him, you guys were able to work your way to that front and hold that front quite comfortably up there.
Yeah, I'll really have to give him credit for helping me to the win there, and obviously we're teammates, and same with Travis and Doc, and unfortunately Travis got caught up in some stuff. He was strong too. Actually, all the old farts were strong, and it's a shame we couldn't have all been up there, but it was a great run, and everybody did a good job tonight, and a lot of fun. I'm pretty much speechless. I'm just tickled pink.
Well, you deserve to be speechless after that race. That was crazy good. I think it was one of the best of the season, the amount of racing. And how I got to bring this up. You guys were 3 wide at the end with the whip racing guys, you and our center in the middle, and then obviously the glove box racing guys on that inside. How was that? That would have been really sketchy in that position. You guys all working down to that end, trying to get everything a little bit out of it.
Well, we kept talking back and forth, hoping we wouldn't get boxed out or something, and it happened to work out. We were in the right spot at the right time, and then the yellow came out. Unfortunately, I think we still would have been strong there at the end, even if the yellow didn't come out. We had some good trucks up there, though. Everybody was strong. GBR, all them guys were good.
Yeah, it was good amongst all you guys. And next week, moving to Charlotte, what do you guys expect there? Obviously, Townsend didn't have a strong run tonight, and a couple of the other guys didn't either. So hopefully you guys can bounce back next week and try and put something there.
Yeah, we do pretty well at the 1.5 miles, and that I'm expecting Al to be really strong, and Travis and Doc and we'll hold our own. I'm sure if we can stay out of trouble. We're usually pretty good there.
Well, hopefully you guys are able to continue this strong run, this momentum from this week. Well done, Frank, on that first win here at Talladega. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Oh, I'll tell you what, this is my first time here, so I hope I don't screw this up, but I got a long list. I'd like to thank Killer Prototype Designs, Innovative Fabworks, of course Raven Grafixx, Lone Star Rod and Customs, iAnalyzer Racing, Glovebox Racing, Doyle brought the Bring It Challenge, and also RaceSpotTV. You guys do an awesome job. Really appreciate it. And I'd like to thank my teammates as well.
Well done. I think that was everyone. I think you got it all covered. And yeah, congratulations on getting that Bring It Challenge by Raven Grafixx as well. An extra $25 in your pocket. Well done. And hopefully we can speak to you next week after a strong result at Charlotte.
10-4. Thanks again. Really appreciate the job you guys do. I want to thank Bobby Stewart and eSpeed as well.
Thank you, Frank, and well done on that victory once again. Randy, I'm going to head it over to you. You'll be with our second place finisher tonight, the teammate to Frank Lamugli, our center.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Al Senna in the 85. And Al Senna, first question I have to ask, over there on Old Fart Sim Racing, who all there is the oldest fart?
Well, I think LG probably has us all beat. I think he's like 77, something like that, maybe even 79. I'm a 66, and there's some others got a little age on them too.
All right, well, let's talk about this race a little bit. And something interesting that I saw, specifically through the middle stage of this race, you were just sort of, you were one who was willing to make moves, make it 3 wide, work that high line, maybe create a middle line if the room was there. But it seemed like every time you got to the front, seemed like everyone else just kind of hung you out to dry. What do you think was the reason for that? I think that there were 2 different occasions you got shuffled down the field just from the middle.
Oh yeah, well, most of the race there we didn't really want to push it, and as the race went on, we wanted to see what would work. So I would try that outside a little bit, see if it would work for later on in the race or when you might need it. And then we got in the middle there and ran that for a long time. That was working probably the best, was the middle. And it stuck good. And, of course, we got hung out there a few times, but that's just the way it goes.
Well, and then now let's talk about this. I mean, it was a strong run from you. I mean, and let's talk about this. 22nd on the grid. Why'd you choose to not qualify here at Talladega, a place where the big one is something that's always talked about. Yeah, this race was green basically all the way, or was green up until the end, but still it was very likely that, a big one would happen. What was your thought process and decision making starting from the back and letting all that happen in front of you?
Well, that did enter my mind there. I had to think about it, whether I wanted to qualify or not. So basically we don't really get to make much of the races, so I didn't really want to get up there and get running too hard too quick, and I just kind of wanted to feel things out before I really got into it. The setup I was running tonight was a real old setup, so I really wasn't too sure how it would run, so it was just kind of a feeling out process.
All right, Al, a fantastic race for both you and your teammate Frank. A great 1-2. Normally, I think when we're expecting an Old Farts 1-2, we're thinking about maybe a Townsend and Marlowe. You guys, it's nice to have you guys up here and have a couple new faces and names to talk to, a couple different voices to hear in the interviews. But any shout-outs, anyone you'd like to thank this evening?
Well, yeah, I want to first off thank all the sponsors. I want to thank Killer Prototype Design, Raven Grafixx, IFX, Innovative Fabworks, Lone Star Rod and Custom, Glovebox Racing, iAnalyze, and there's probably a couple other them I'm forgetting. Also, I want to thank RaceSpotTV, and most of all, I want to thank the Contenders series itself for putting the show on.
Well, we, of course, always we love putting on this series. It's such great racing, and especially today, it's not often you see a 113-lap race at Dega nearly go green to the end. Very great job by all you guys. I mean, there were a couple of hairy moments you guys dodged, so thanks for putting on such a great show out there, Al, and good luck preparing for next week at Charlotte.
You betcha. Thank you.
All right, so that was Al Senna in the 85, your second-place finisher tonight, and I'm going to throw it over to Jake. And, Jake, I hear you stood by with the fight of Ryan Campbell.
Yeah, I'm going to be here on pit row with the number 5 of Ryan Campbell. Finishing in 3rd, it's going to keep this strong run going, Ryan. The first, 5th last week, and now a 3rd. You're starting to get this ball rolling for a championship title. Tell us about that one.
Oh, yeah, it was a good race. I mean, it was a long race for sure. That was a long green flag run, no doubt. We had a strong truck tonight. We had a good package underneath us, and unfortunate we had some problems in the beginning with some of our teammates, but I thought we had a good, strong run there at the end. Not really certain what happened. It's unfortunate. I was set to keep pushing Jason as long as I could. I had to watch my temperature. I kept getting overheating. My gauges started flashing, so I'd have to back off a little bit, and I just backed off at the wrong time, I guess, and it allowed the two to our right to get in front of us, and looks like it bottled things up when they got in front of us.
Yeah, that was a crazy accident that brought out the caution. You somehow saved it. I rode on board with you, and that was crazy at the end. I don't know how you missed it. There was cars going left and right and up and down and everywhere, and somehow you made it through that, and it got you that good, strong position.
Yeah, it was evasive maneuver, to say the least. Luckily, I had the room behind me to check up, and was able to turn the correct way. You kind of have to guess, and the momentum that the truck in front of me was going, it just looked like left was the right way to go. Man, I can't say it enough, though. It's unfortunate that it turned out the way that it did. I was hoping to keep pushing Jason and get him to the win. I wanted to lock another GBR truck into the championship.
Yeah, you guys at GBR have been pushing strong each week now, and it is coming consistently now. That's your 3rd straight top 5 after your win at Mosport, so you're continuing that strong run, and it would have been good to see you guys continue towards that end and have Size Love up there as well, being able to push for that victory. But hopefully next week, moving to Charlotte, you guys have been strong on those type of racetracks. Hopefully you guys have a good package continuing this momentum on.
We do. Charlotte's going to be a tough race, though. I think the entire field has a good race trim for the 1.5-mile tracks. It's a long race, and it's going to be an early evening race, so it'll be interesting to see how the track handles the tire wear. It'll be interesting to see if the lines change during the race as the heat starts to build up in one lane over another. That's going to be a long, grueling race, and it's going to be a tough one. There's no doubt about it. Like I said, everybody's got a good set for that track.
Yeah, well, that may be something we'll have to watch out for, especially after this, the new build with this new dynamic track that they've implemented again. I think it was the difference with the heat build up and how that all works. I think that's definitely going to play a part next week at Charlotte, and hopefully you can continue that top 5 run again, Ryan. Well done on the 3rd place here at Talladega after that crazy finish. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Oh, sure. I'd like to thank Raven Grafixx for being the title sponsor. Obviously, Killer Prototyping and Design, Innovative Fabworks, iAnalyze Racing, Lone Star Rod and Custom, I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting this every week. I've got some friends that watch, and I get text messages shortly after the race telling me either good job or you suck. So they enjoy watching it. It's just a great thing that you guys put on. I'm really fortunate to be a part of what's come of this series. It was fun last year, but seeing how it's grown into this year with Raven Grafixx and with the things Bobby has done and with RaceSpot, it's become a blast to run in. So thanks to you guys and Bobby and Raven Grafixx and everybody that watches.
It's been a pleasure to be able to put on this show with you guys out there. You guys are putting on a show for us to be able to have some good races from week to week. So well done again, Ryan, on that third place today.
You,
and hopefully we can see you next week again in the top 5.
Hopefully we'll see you guys. All right, have a good one.
Thank you, Ryan. And now I'll move it over to you, Randy, and you'll be with our two-time winner from this season, Doug Lemons.
Yeah, I'm over here with Doug Lemons. And Doug, really, it seemed like a relatively calm race for you. We actually didn't talk about you very much. There's a couple points where you got yourself to the front, made a couple aggressive moves, but beyond that, it seemed to me like you kind of just rolled around 4, 5, 6 trucks back or so in the pack. But how was it for you? Did you feel you were being calm, or were you maybe deceivingly more aggressive than we think?
Oh, I was running pretty calm. Talladega to finish first, you must first finish. So. Yeah, I was just cruising. I did make a couple of aggressive moves that a couple of them were pretty close, but they worked out.
That was a great run from you tonight, and really it was a good run for all your teammates as well. I mean, Sizlove was having arguably one of the best runs of the championship thus far that he's had, and you had Ryan Campbell up there as well. There were several of you guys up there near the front that maybe we're not quite used to seeing normally. Normally it's you and Ryan up there really battling for the wins with everyone else, but great to see the new names. But let's talk about the next round at Charlotte. Longest race of the championship, and with this new build, new surface model, the surface is going to be working a little bit different. How are you going to go into preparing for that? And, what do you think is going to be different from, say, some of the other longer mile-and-a-half races we've had this season?
Well, since we use the dynamic weather and the new dynamic track surface, it's really kind of a crapshoot on the weather. If it's sunny out, it just changes your whole game plan out. If it's overcast, then a lot of guys are going to have tunes that are disguised by that. So it just all depends on the weather.
All right, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that works out, but congratulations on the strong 4th place from you tonight, Doug. Any shout-outs, anyone you'd like to thank this evening?
Oh, yeah. Raven Grafixx, Killer Prototype Designs, Innovative Fabworks. You guys are doing one heck of a job. I've said it before, and it's real cool to watch the replays. And Bobby, for putting all these guys together. We got one heck of a league. Everybody's real respectful, and it's just a lot of fun.
Like we say to everyone, it's a pretty great race you put on, and we definitely enjoy covering it. So you have a good rest of your night, Doug, and we'll talk to you hopefully next week after a good run at Charlotte.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening.
You too, Doug. And Jake, before I toss it over to you too much, I hope Doug and the rest of these guys wise up and stop thanking us and just know that we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants up here.
Yeah, we're sort of just taking it one week as it goes, but the racing that these guys are putting on is tremendous, and it's making it awesome to be able to do this from week to week.
Yep, but Jake has one more interview before we log off here for the evening, and that's going to be with your 5th place finisher, who someone's probably a little disappointed. That's the 2 of James Torrey.
Yeah, just got here on pit road here with the 2 of James Torrey. James, not the result I think you were looking for. Obviously, the top 5 result is still good for your championship hunt, but you guys at Whip Racing, I think, had a good, strong chance of that victory. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure would have liked to have a win. These races are kind of a roll of the dice sometimes, though. You just don't know what's going to happen. Congrats to Frank there for a good win, though, and I appreciate my Whip Racing team for all the help they give me. Thought I was going to get them there, but we had a slow car, and I was all in, and just didn't work out very good.
Yeah, you guys had, I think, the ultimate strategy call with all 5 of you guys on that first round of pit stops, and then the second round, obviously, you lost Termeyer after his incident on pit road, and then Doyle Lawrence dropped back after a little incident that was under green where they had no caution. But you three up front, when you guys came out, you looked good. You may be able to tell what was the issue with Bobby Stewart? Did he not put enough fuel in after he missed his box, or was there some other issue that he had to come down the second time?
Yeah, that's exactly it. He had a little miscue there and short fueled himself, and so he had to go back in, and that pretty much doomed us to the pack catching us.
Yeah, I think if Bobby was able to get that one sorted from the word go, I think you guys were clear. We were actually tracking the numbers that you guys were doing to see whether the pack would catch you, and it was going to be tight. It was going to come down to the last couple of laps where they may have caught you, and it could have been all chaos from there on out. But you guys are still able to put in a good run. And moving on from this week, it's giving you a little bit more momentum. It's that little bit. You guys struggled at Martinsville, but this week it's a little bit better of a run where you guys are able to actually put in some decent results inside that top 10.
Yeah, we needed it. Needed a little bit better after last week, but we'll take it.
Yeah, it's a good result. And moving on next week at Charlotte, what do you guys think you guys are going to have for that track? Everyone's talking about this 1.5 mile package. Everyone's got a good package for it. Do you guys believe you guys can keep this going and try and get those 5 wheat racing trucks up the front?
I think so. You know, the problem is most everybody's good there, so it's going to be a dogfight. It'll be a good race, but it's going to be a dogfight for sure.
Well, that'll be good to see everyone with a good, strong package, all separated by a couple of tenths. It'll be some close racing, and well done on getting that top 5 today, James, in that 2-truck for whip racing. It was a good, still a good, strong result. It's good for the championship points. Still going to get that win to lock yourself in the chase, but you'll be getting that soon with these strong runs. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Davis Technologies, iAnalyze Racing, of course Raven Graphics for sponsoring this whole thing, Killer Prototyping and Designs, Innovative Fab Works, and Glovebox Racing, and you guys.
Well done, James, and hopefully we can speak to you next week after a good run at Charlotte as well.
I hope so. I hope I'm carrying the checkered flag next week.
Hopefully that's the case. Well done, James, on that 5th position. And Randy, what a race that was to Talladega. It was another level from Daytona at the start of the season, and I think it's what we've come to expect now every week from this series. It's going up week by week.
Oh yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, like, Daytona was a fantastic race in its own right, and you know, we talked about the long green flag runs there, but we basically took that and shut it down here today with, I mean, we had 1 caution in 113 laps. Unfortunately, that caution ended the race, but sometimes that happens, and, you know, coming out of here, you know, there's so many things that you can think of going into the next round. Just the longest race of the championship at Charlotte. And, you know, normally we talk 200-mile races here. This one was 300. Charlotte's 400, so that's going to be a pretty long ways to go. And like we talked about with some of these other guys, you know, the new surface model, the way the surface changes are going to be implemented, they're not going to have a lot of experiences with that. And I think you're basically going into we talked about it being a new build coming into here, if there were any changes to the trucks at all. Turns out doesn't seem like there was, but the surface, I think that's going to play hugely in part at Charlotte.
Yeah, that surface model difference with how it's going to heat up and cool down, and the way the rubber gets laid down now, that they have all learnt actually that iRacing have been able to implement from their dirt side experience that they're building on. So from that, they've been able to implement that into the dynamic tracks, and that is going to be a crazy race at Charlotte. It's going to have a long distance, a 400-mile race at Charlotte, which is pushing that 600-mile race that we see for the Coca-Cola 600 in the Sprint Cup Series. So that's going to be a long race. That's going to really play and implement with this dynamic track and see what happens with these trucks and how they're going to handle it. It's going to be awesome to watch.
Yeah, that IFX 400 next week is going to be crazy because you're starting to stretch it into areas of not so much of a standard NASCAR race. You really, 400 miles, you're starting to talk a proper, almost endurance sort of distance. But that's going to do it for us here tonight on RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. After a phenomenal show in your Let's Roll 300. And of course, we have to thank all of our sponsors, eSpeed, Raven Graphics, Innovative Fab Works, KPD, and of course everyone else and all the runners in this championship for putting on such a great show. Some things to look forward to this week 13 carries on. You have the iRacing Bragging Rights Invitational. It's being organized by me, so maybe I'm biased. You can catch that Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and of course on Sunday, the Gathering of Tweakers Week 13 event that they do every single time with some funky combinations. I think that's going to be a fun one as well. But that's going to do it for us this evening. Randy Chinnett, Jake Blackhall, Hugo Louise. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.